Rā ki te whānau e hui nei, kia tau te rangi Māori, kia whakatapua tātou me ngā mea e whakapono ana tātou, haumi e, hui e.
Okay, have we got any apologies?
I haven't heard from Deanne, but I noticed she's not here this morning.
Okay, all right, no apologies at this moment. Okay, and we'll declare our conflicts of interest as we go through. Right, we will go through the receipt of actions, item 5.2.
We'll start with 5.1.
5.1, sorry, I missed that, page 6. Confirmation of council minutes.
Yeah, I'll move, Chair.
You have a mover. Okay, Joe.
Maybe a second.
Thanks, Amy. Anything you've seen in there, Joe, that you'd like to bring up?
No, it's all good. Thank you.
Amy, you all good?
No, Shane's fine, thank you.
All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Okay, passes. Carried. Okay, page 16, item 5.2. Receipt of action sheet. We have
that.
Excuse me, through the chair. I had my hand raised for the last agenda item.
Okay, I can't see it, sorry.
Can you see me or hear me?
No, we can
Up
hear
there?
you.
No picture.
We can hear you but not see you.
We're just having a look at it, Councillor Shortland, just to make sure we can get your image up there.
Okay, well, while you're on the speaker, we can hear you. What were the issues of the council minutes you'd like to bring
Oh,
up?
thank you. I couldn't attend the last meeting because I was at the hospital with my daughter, so I gave apologies. And so reading through the minutes, I see that there were 3 councillors that opposed the Taumarere business governance group. Can you see me now?
No. Oh,
Anyhow, so I've had numerous inquiries from Ngāti Hine constituents as to why Councillor John Blackwell from Kaipara Ward, Councillor Joe Carr from Hokianga Ward, and our chair, Jeff Crawford from the Mid-North Ward, where Taumarere is. So because I'm receiving so many inquiries and I couldn't find a record online of the why would you have done that? I'm sorry, I can hear people talking in the room. I'm hoping you can still hear me. I'm trying to be clear. So can I have please a clarification, because I had to give apologies for the last meeting, and I have constituents in Ngāti Hine that want to know why. Why did Councillor Blackwell, Councillor Carr and Councillor Chair Crawford oppose the business case? Thank you.
okay, this isn't the forum to bring that up, Tui.
It is the forum.
The minutes.
We're going through the minutes, and I gave my apologies, so I have the right to ask what happened at the meeting. I'm recorded as having given my apologies.
Read the minutes, you can ask for clarification on points, but so
That's what I'm asking, Chris.
Yeah, sorry, Councillor Shortland, I wasn't actually at the meeting either, but from what I read from the minutes, there was a note that there was an understanding amongst some elected members that the business case would take a holistic catchment approach, and I think that was the reference to why some councillors didn't vote in favour, but I could be wrong.
Joe?
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to confirm that Mr. Taylor is correct, and that was the reason why I didn't support it. I want to see a holistic approach. I want to see the entire catchment from top of the mountain down to the sea included, and I wanted us to actually actively engage in strategy and flood management because the actual erosion and sedimentation, apart from that caused by extreme events, is probably de minimis. So I was pretty disappointed where it headed, and I didn't make a big fanfare about it, but that's why I didn't support it.
Okay, so we've already passed the minute, so we'll move on, please. Okay, receipt of action sheet.
I move that.
5.2.
Excuse me. I would like to raise a further clarification from the minutes. Thank you, Chair. It's
Okay.
on the mana whakahono arohe agreement with Ngāti Hine, where Jeff, the Chair, was elected as the only person to sign the mana whakahono arohe agreement. And I would like to make a suggestion for councillors to have some consideration for the Te Raki elected members who do actually the majority of the groundwork when it comes to mana whakahono arohe agreements. You know, currently we had a whole lot of iwi and hapu who are saying, put their hands up to do the agreements with us, and we're very, very fortunate for that. But it's Councillor Jones and I that are doing 100% of the council work right now on bridging with our whānau. And so I would just like to suggest, I'm not asking for any changes and recommendations. I'm only seeking clarifications, and to add my own clarifications, that I believe that the Te Raki ward elected members should be considered when it comes to signing these agreements, and it shouldn't just go to the chair. And also, further to that, having had the chair oppose the Taumārire business case, it actually makes our job even harder because people are looking sideways at our council right now. I just wanted to give that clarification too. Thank you.
Sorry, do you want some clarification? So there's an opportunity for council to alter or revoke a previous decision, but it has to come through a report through the chair and the CEO, and there's certain conditions around that. There needs to be 2 clear working days notice of that. So there is a process, but council would have to choose to do that, and that would have had to be looked at in the future.
So we can't do it here.
Not at this point.
No.
No.
Okay, so we
Sorry, Chair. I'd like to make a response, please.
okay, it is going on a bit, Marty.
It is, but I take issue with the fact that the 2 Te Raki members are making 100% of the effort and results. It's been a whole of council affair.
Point of order, I did not say results. I said bridging the new ones that are incoming, and I can say that as a fact.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, can we turn the volume down? This isn't the forum to discuss this either. As chair, I would like to move on, so
I'll leave it at that.
we'll leave it at that, Marty. Okay.
Thanks, Marty.
Thank you. All right, we'll go back to the receipt of action sheets 5.2. Now, we've already had a mover, which is Rick. Do I have a seconder?
I'll second.
Okay, thanks, Jack.
Chair, if I can, there's just a couple of updates to those actions. So the third one, which is 7752, and it is about the legal advice. We do now have a workshop date, which is the 30th of October. And then the following one, 7759, which is the workshop on the Wairoa stream, is now booked in for the 6th of November.
Okay, so those action points that will be recorded?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, Rick, you want
So-
to put any of this?
Yeah, so there's no, in terms of the scholarship people, are we booking them in, or are they booked in, or is it just tentatively booked in?
I'll have to.
Oriel? Because I'm really keen to, I think everybody's supportive. We're keen to meet them and find out what they're doing. So very keen to do that.
We can come back and confirm via email for councillors as to when and how that's been scheduled. I noticed Councillor Shortman's got a hand up, Chair.
Okay, you got a hand up to it?
Yes, I would just like to suggest that being consistent in terms of our Māori ward submissions, that we workshop this with our TMAC and Māori advisors. Thank you.
Thanks, Jack.
Just one little point. The second last action, 776, so Kiwi Rail Advisory Committee, we had a response back from WBC yet?
No.
Okay, thanks.
All right, Joe?
Oh, yes, 7761, that's the very last item. a letter be drafted regarding funding for the lower Whakatane spillways, the letter to copy in Grant McCullum and Minister Jones. I know this has been a bit fluid, and I just wondered where the situation, if we had any confirmations regarding that funding.
Not from my side. I think I'm just looking there that the update is that the chair has spoken with Grant McCullum.
Yes,
Sure, if there was any update from there. Otherwise, we can still do a letter.
spoken with Grant McCullum. Haven't spoken with Shane Jones, but talked to the Pagoo.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think it was supposed to come out before Christmas, is what I heard, because isn't there a second tranche
There
of
was a second tranche coming through.
coming,
yes.
which is another 42 projects, is it?
They haven't confirmed the number of projects, but they
Yeah.
are working on what a second
Yes, so it's
tranche
in
looks
that.
like.
But I think it's supposed to be prior to Christmas is the last.
I know the conversations are active at the moment. I'm not sure if Louise has got any more information, but I haven't heard a specific date or when it's due to.
Well, I'm pretty comfortable with that, but
Yeah.
what I'm not comfortable about is if we should proceed with the Quarry Road extra span and not improve the receiving environment. You know, the extra flows.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
would really worry me.
Yeah. Yeah, you put a lot of.
Because we've actually put all our Awanui reserve funds on long-term loan, and we might have to dig into them if we don't have this funding. So just leave that. It's a niggle that's worrying me, TO.
Okay, we'll come back to you.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe that after the meeting we can.
Yep,
talk
please.
about that. Okay. Thank you. All right, so
I have my hand raised. Kia ora tātou, through you, Mr. Chair. Could I also make a supplementary comment regarding what Councillor Joe Carr has mentioned? I just note that the action superseded by the chair of the council raising the matter directly with Grant McCullum, and your mention of a conversation with another relevant minister of whom I have a conflict, which is documented, and that we're awaiting feedback. I'm just wondering, in terms of how we record these conversations and follow up, is there a way that these conversations are documented? Because that helps us to manage the flow of information. And whether the letter, what was, just for clarification, was the letter in fact sent as is documented here as an action?
Kia ora, Chair. I don't believe a letter was sent, given the kōrero that our chair had with Grant McCullum and to have with Minister Jones. Very happy to.
You know, ka pai, understood. So if the idea of sending a letter is actually to record not only the problem that needs addressing, but also that we've made contact with the relevant ministers that have jurisdiction over these types of works. This is in fact a very important infrastructural and flood mitigation issue that has the potential to have positive impact on not only the entire Awanui area, but the Kaitaia area. So I'm keen to understand, how did we document the two conversations that have apparently occurred?
Kia ora, Councillor Jones. I don't believe we have documented in writing anywhere the conversation that our chair has had, other than the fact that it's been had through this action sheet. And very happy if councillors wish for a letter to go out as well, so that we've got some documentation of our correspondence. That I'm happy for that to proceed. Joe?
Yeah,
I would add just in closing that I think to actually get ahead of these types of issues, sometimes we need more than a conversation that's not documented, because ministers of parliament, particularly cabinet ministers, have very busy schedules and are mindful that undocumented conversations can actually mean that key issues fall off the priority list. So I would suggest that when we have actions on the action list from our council meeting, that we in fact follow up with those actions. Failing that, we come up with an alternative that actually does document our concern and the reason why we're raising it and what we expect. Because I think when we're dealing with cabinet ministers, we need to be really clear around how we document our expectations. Kia ora.
Thank you.
Yeah, just Peter Lucas, it's a relationship matter. We have an opportunity, we talk to a minister, and I understand that Minister Jones was under the impression that we didn't have a resource consent for this particular works, and asked me if I could give him that assurance, which I've done. So there's been a little bit of discussion that's gone on. It hasn't been formally part of a meeting, but I referenced my sources for this information so you could go to the staff, and we've just been working away. There's probably a sensitivity issue there because of Minister Jones's association with the area, and so we've just been working through it.
Okay. Right, so we've got Rick and Jacob.
Yep.
Can we just seek clarification, Chair?
So I'm crystal clear for staff. Are we wanting to write a letter or are we not wanting to write a letter? I just wish to be clear.
Well, I think we're waiting for the government next tranche to come out. Will a letter actually spur anything on?
So we've got an application in that tranche.
We have staff engaging in the process at the moment around the tranche. There's no actual application process per se. How the tranches came up was Tūrika, as all of the regional councils collectively put together a package of proposals to form tranche one. Joe Camuso and the team are working with the same group of officials through Tūrika to put together what's the tranche two that would go through, and the spillway is part of that tranche that Joe has put in as part of that package.
So what we could do, I suggest, is actually send a memo to our Northland MPs that they were actually involved in that process to them all, and just inform them what we're doing, and maybe point out the relevance of the receiving environment, etc. And
an alternate, well, we could do that, and we've also just to highlight, we've got our Northland MPs workshop. I think it's not next week, it's the following week.
Is it?
So we can include that. Oh, it is next week.
So we can put it on the agenda.
We can put it on the agenda for there as well.
Okay.
Would that, through your chair, would that suit you, Peter Lucas? That process?
I think it's a good one, a good process that you've suggested, Councillor Carr, particularly because we need to document the problems that we hope to address, and how we define that problem is really important when government officials are actually making recommendations to decision makers around how to address these problems. So I do believe that if we're not going to have a letter, that's some sort of documented definition of the problem we hope to address and how we hope to address it and why we hope to address it, like you've advised. I believe that's a good process. Kia ora.
Okay.
I just find it worrying that we're having conversations that aren't documented, because those sorts of things lead to priorities falling off the list. That's all my concern is related to.
Okay, and I have all in favour of the receipt of actions.
Aye.
Against? Okay, page 19, financial report, 30th of September 2024. That financial report to the 30th of September 2024 by Taka Skipworth, financial accountant, dated the 8th of October 2024, be received. I have John.
I'm happy to move that.
John. Yeah. Okay, John, would you like any discussion around?
I get a little bit confused with it, how you transfer money from around, like investments and that side of it, but I probably need to take that offline.
Okay. So you need somebody to help a clarification of it?
Yeah, it would be quite good, because I noticed that by transferring from one account to the other, it affects the surplus, and I can't quite get my head around it.
Okay, so we've got Simon in the room. Simon, did you hear the question from John Blackwell? Okay.
I'm happy to do it offline.
Oh, okay.
We can set up a time, Councillor Blackwell, if you'd like, with Simon to run through it.
Okay, Peter, you got a question there?
Kia ora, Chair. Look, first of all, I'd just like to say thank you and acknowledge the effort that's gone into preparing the financial report. However, it raises several issues that I believe require further clarity and oversight. Like financial management, of course, is central to public trust. And we must ensure that any variances, whether favourable or unfavourable, that we're exploring what they mean. And so, like in terms of fund gains and sustainability, the positive financial position is partially due to favourable fund gains from what I can understand and see. But these can fluctuate, and I'd like to understand what steps are in place to protect the council's finances if market conditions change and fund gains decrease.
Okay, Simon?
Yes, we hold, from the gains, we require about $2.2 million to contribute to our operating funding. If the markets, which are volatile, turn and we don't generate that level of gains, we have that equivalent amount of money put away in term deposits, so outside of the gains, but in term deposits that we can draw on to fill the hole. And continue funding rather than, reviewing all our operational programs and changing programs, stopping programs. We would dip into our term deposits and use that as funding for the lost or foregone gains.
In terms of use of reserves and transfers, I see that transfers to reserves are, like you said, around that $2.5 million, higher than expected. But certain areas like flood mitigation, which we just had a bit of a conversation about earlier, in terms of projects, like they were underfunded due to delays, from what I understand. But what criteria determines how reserves are allocated? And how does the council ensure underfunded areas receive proper attention?
I can.
Yep, okay.
Every reserve has a reserve purpose within the long-term plan or the annual plan. It specifies what the reserve can be used for. Any draw from a reserve requires a council resolution. The river schemes operate under their own reserves. They're not underfunded. They have a budget, and if there is a variance to the phasing of the budget, then that'll be tried to be made up within the year. If it's not made up, then that goes back into the reserve. So that's how it works.
Okay, well, thank you for that. Now, a follow-up question, and I do ask these questions about finances, Mr. Chair, because I think a big part of our role as governors is public accountability. And I'm just wondering, is the council reviewing regularly how surplus funds are allocated to ensure they are invested in core priorities such as environmental management and, of course, flood mitigation?
Yes, that's done every year when we know what the surplus is. So in August, when we do the end of year financial reporting, council is given the full budget results, including any surplus, and council determines where that surplus is applied, whether it's applied to future environmental initiatives or potentially to offset a rate for a year or any other purpose. That's how that works.
Considering the infrastructural degradation in the Northland area, do we believe the timing of those review processes are optimal and enough?
We only know what a surplus is when we are at the end of the year. As you mentioned earlier, the financial markets, as an example, fluctuate. So we only really know at the end of the year, and that's when we have in August the opportunity to make, or for council to make that decision. I do note, however, though, that there is still money within the equalisation reserve for councillor directed projects. I can't remember the exact amount of that. It's about 500.
I would agree that
I would be used by council at any stage pending a council resolution.
That's an interesting comment, because I would agree that we know what the finalised surplus is at the end of the year, but part of our role includes monitoring how that surplus is evolving throughout the year, and that's the background to my question. And finally, Mr. Chair, in terms of staffing vacancies, while the salary savings from unfilled positions contributes or contributed to the favourable financial variance, how are those vacant roles impacting on service delivery, and what are the plans to fill these positions?
Okay, John, I answer that. Yeah, kia ora, Chair, thank you. We've got an ongoing priority to fill our vacancies. Some roles are more difficult to fill than others, depending on what the market is doing at any given time. Yes, we sometimes vacancies do have an impact on our ability to deliver services, depending on where those vacancies are, and those are managed by the group managers and through ELT at the time. If there's any significant drop in delivery of service due to vacancies, we would bring that to council and we would highlight that to governance if there was a significant drop in a particular level of service as a result of vacancies. But it's something that we try and manage as best we can within teams. If there's a project and there's a vacancy for a particular person and it's an important priority for the organisation, then we may move other staff around within that group to be able to fill that gap temporarily and keep those levels of service being delivered while we continue to recruit for a particular position. But you're right, Peter Lucas, vacancies can have an impact on our ability to deliver our services. Pleasingly, our turnover rates at the moment are the lowest. It's, I think, from memory in the report, it's 8.4% at the moment, which is considerably lower than what we've had historically. We have had a high of 19 in the past.
Right, Tua, you got your hand up?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Kia ora. I'd like to refer to page 20, grants and subsidies. The way I read it, with things like pest-free whangarei is higher than budgeted of $408,000, and pest control of $38,000 is being offset by our flood mitigation and our civil defence and emergency management money. Is that correct? And how did we get into a $408,000 over budget and pest-free whangarei? And what activities are going on with pest-free whangarei? Are we just talking about laying 1080 on people's properties? Thank you.
Okay, we've got Don in the room.
Kia ora, and through you, Mr. Chair. Some of those factors in this month's report are phasing issues, where we've entered into contracts and not yet been provided the service. So those usually flatten out over the first two kind of quarters. The kind of work that is going on in those programs is around our CPCAs and high value area work. So that's control of possum, control of stoats, mustelids and so on. It is also, it's associated with the PF 2050 work that's going on to there, where we do have quite a bit of funding still held in reserves. And it does cause, a funny looking financial variance at this time of the year, but that will flatten out into the next quarter.
Oh, thank you. And so the under budgeted or lower than budgeted subsidies, oh no, that's so I'd also just like to know that all the flood work and things, so it's not really subsidising the pest-free work, is it? It's all going to happen, and as you all say, it's going to be made up later, or it's all going to flatten out.
Yeah, correct, Councillor Shortland. So when it says offset, that's just offsetting the percentage variance in that column. None of the money from biosecurity or from flood controls actually is being transferred to either any of those other activities. It's just that the higher than budgeted and lower than budgeted is offsetting that percentage of 4.3 there. And it comes down to a phasing of when we've anticipated undertaking the works as opposed to when it's actually happening.
You can't offset stuff that's set by targeted rates anyway. Targeted rates that you spent on those items. Yeah.
These are grants and subsidies, but yeah, you're dead right. Does that answer your question, Councillor Shortland?
Thank you.
Okay. John Blackwell.
Same page as Sue is on page 20 with rates, and you talk about sewage, and you've got a 0.2%. I suppose that's a pretty good indication of growth for Northland. Increase of 0.2%. Rates. Increase in sewage. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Passed. Okay. Okay. Updated to the elected members' expenses and allowance policy, item 7.1, page 23. We have 3 recommendations. Do I have a mover and a seconder to take?
Happy to move.
Which, do you want to move them all in one go?
Well, yeah.
Okay, Marty. Do I have a seconder?
I'll second it.
Okay, Jack. Okay, Marty.
Yeah, there have been some concerns expressed about some allowances and fees, and that it's good to have a backup system rather than just leaving it to chair, so that if there is any disagreement, that it can go to a panel and get a bit of clarity. I'm happy for that to happen.
Okay, Jack.
Yeah, I think it might be my idea. Yeah, I'm happy with it. I think it's a way of dealing with any issues that might come up that fall short of needing to go to a full council resolution and open meeting, which doesn't seem very seemly to me when you're talking about minor admin matters. Thank you.
Okay, we've got Peter Lucas, then you, Rick.
Well, kia ora tātou. I just want to say that I recognise the importance of having clear and fair policies regarding expenses and allowances. However, I have in fact experienced inconsistencies in how these policies have been applied, particularly concerning my own legitimate claims. And this is why I believe it's essential to address questions around consistency, transparency, and governance processes in the implementation of members' expenses and allowance panel suggestions. In terms of consistency and fairness, I have a question. How will the MEAP ensure that previously denied legitimate claims are revisited fairly and impartially?
Well, I would like this personally to start from today, and previous claims won't be litigated.
So I know I think I'd probably like to get up, because through this chair, probably like to get a ruling on this from standing orders on that, but I'd imagine that that MEAP would not apply to retrospective actions, but I guess we'd like to be guided by the CE.
Chair, I think it's a question for council. So standing orders don't really apply to the elected members' expenses and allowance policy. It's a question for councillors as to whether you want this new establishment of this panel and the review of expenses and expenses and allowances to apply from today's date moving forward, or whether you wanted to be able to consider past applications within the term of this council. And it's purely a decision for councillors to make as to the scope.
I have a follow-up question, and it's around governance and power dynamics. So, given my past expense claims were previously approved by the chair, but now denied, I have raised concerns about misuse of power, and it was only after that my expense claims were denied. How will the council ensure that the chair's role in improving claims is properly monitored to prevent potential bias?
Well, I don't think it's really fair for the chair to have to answer that, but I guess my take on that was that this is what we've got meat for. And if there's any, it's quite a simple process. If the applicant claim is denied or modified in any way that's not acceptable to them, then they can go to this panel, and the panel will address it. I don't see any other interpretation.
My question is to the meeting, not to the chair. It's through the chair. And my follow-up question to the meeting is really around policy versus practice. How will the council balance effective past practice with policy enforcement to ensure members acting in good faith are not penalised?
Everything is judged by the policy. I can't see in good faith, but I think you're pulling on something that's not there. So I don't think we need to litigate this here.
Could you please explain that statement a little further? Something that's not there?
Well, we've been judging all expenses on the policy. Are you saying that we haven't judged against the policy? What are you referencing to?
What I'm making a question about, Mr. Chair, is policy versus practice.
But policy is policy. Are you saying I have not, have I gone against the policy?
No, what I'm raising to your attention, Mr. Chair, is that only after I raised concerns about misuse of power were my claims denied. Now, the historical practice that has been applied with claims has not always been consistent.
I don't think we need to litigate your claims here, Mr. Jones. We're here to run a meeting. Yep. If you want to bring up your own issues, you can do it in personal time.
Okay. I most certainly will.
Can you mute him, please?
Consistency and fairness.
Move on, please. Okay. Right.
Mr. Chairman, I think there was one question that has been asked, and that's that does warrant an answer, and that's can we re-examine past claims orders and move forward today? So I think that's a valid question that we can answer, and I would say in spirit of fair dealing that MEEP should be able to re-examine past claim. Really? Yeah, I would say that, because that way we can actually deal with them all and deal with any accusations of fairness or unfairness, any accusations of partial judgment. So that would be my take on it.
Okay. So do we need
I want to clean this up for
yeah. So do we need to?
I don't want us to drag on.
So is this, I've got a few things. Yeah. So when you're ready. Am I on?
Yes, you're on.
First one is, I think it should start from now, because if we start going backwards, then we go, I mean, I've been here 8 years. How many years are we going to go back? Anyway, that's I'm happy to do it from now. I think that's more important. My questions are, do any other councils have a policy like this one? And the quorum. There's nothing in here about a quorum. So only 2 turn up. Is that enough, or do we need all 3 in the room?
Well, I would have thought that if somebody is not available, that they're replaced by somebody else in the council.
Well, we haven't got that in the recommendation.
I think it's fine. It says that if one of those 3 is the subject of a claim, then the other 2 will make the judgment. I think that's quite clear.
Yeah. But what about if Sorry, John, I was going to correct me on the quorum.
I think at the moment, through you, Mr. Chair, that it purely states here's the panel, so the panel needs to be the full panel. There's no quorum requirements there, so if it says there's a panel of three, it's a panel of three that need to be able to review it. If the expenses are for a member of the panel, then there's a panel of two. And it just says it's a panel, so you need to have all your members there. I think it would be useful, though, to have a resolution around whether this is able to look at past expenses, and I'm happy to provide some suggestions around what a resolution would look like. My suggestion, if you did look at doing that, was that it only applied to this term.
Correct.
It doesn't go to previous
So,
council.
Other question is other councils. Do we know about that?
I haven't done a review of other councils' expenses and allowance policies to see if they've got a similar mechanism now.
And just on that note, and in support of what Rick is saying, I mean, the question from the chair to me was very pointed, because this paper and this decision comes at a time where my legitimate claims were actually denied as what I believe a form of retaliation for asking questions around consistency around policy implementation across other areas, particularly regarding pecuniary benefit. I mentioned that because I am named as one of the people on the panel, and so it's important what Rick is saying and what Jack is saying, because one doesn't make decisions about their own expense claims, and so that's also some further background to my questions.
Okay, Tui, you got your hand up, and then Marty.
Thank you. Yes, I believe that if you are a councillor that has taken the initiative and you've applied, say, to go to an annual event, the biggest event in the country, some may know it as Waitangi, and you're declined to go, and the event is yet to come, several months, that you should still be able to have it revisited. You know, the point of how we talked about this in the workshops was that it's an opportunity for people to feel like their views have been, you know, reconsidered. I think Councillor McDonald, you know, referred to it as a course of natural justice. So my recommendation to councillors, I mean, I don't know how many you think there are that would need to be revisited. I would hope there's not a lot. But what I would like to say is I'm very concerned for what Councillor Jones is raising. And I believe that, you know, and I thank the staff and councillors that are supporting this as a way that we can, you know, figure out our ways to move forward and then be able to focus on the work that we've been elected to do. Thank you.
Okay, I think it's enough. Oh, Marty, you.
I just want to speak to having moved the motion. I think that this would go towards that objective and transparent resolution of members' concerns. I'd be quite happy for it to be retrospective, and I'd be happy to add that as a fourth. Fourth recommendation.
It doesn't have to be a fourth, just a preamble.
Oh, well, I think the CEO would like a clear resolution. So Councillor Robertson and Councillor Craw moved and seconded. If you're happy to add that wording, that can be on, have it be a fourth point to go to the vote.
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. I think it doesn't have to be a fourth ABCD. It's actually should actually be in the preamble. The first, a fourth sentence added to the preamble saying that this policy applies.
Making a recommendation.
Yes, I recommend that. Okay, I recommend.
And Jono has some wording that he could suggest.
Mr. Chair, if it's useful, I could provide some suggested wording that you can consider.
Yeah.
That the members' expenses and allowance panel may consider past expenses or allowance claims within this term of council.
Yeah, sure.
Yep. Simple as. Okay, so we need to vote on that. You want to read it out again? You're all clear?
No.
Yeah. Okay. All right, all in favour?
Aye.
Against?
Against.
You're against?
Yep.
Okay. All right, so we'll move on to page 44, which is the meeting calendar by Chris Taylor. And we've got 2 recommendations.
I'll move them.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, very good, Amy and Marley. Anything about the calendar, Amy?
No, just thanks to Chris for
Yes.
managing us with her magical powers. Yeah, much appreciated, Chris.
Okay, Marty?
No, happy with that. Yeah, it's a snakes and ladders board and it's a really hard game to play.
Well, colour would be nice, but you know.
Okay.
Councillor Shortland, I think, has her hand up, Chair.
Oh, Tui?
Kia ora. So in the beginning of term, we asked staff to look into the ability to align with the maramataka, and other councils are doing that. Sometimes it can actually make for a good rangi meeting. How have you gone with that?
I haven't pursued that. Oh, sorry.
No, you go.
Oh, no, sorry.
Oriel.
Yeah, just in response to that, through you, the chair, I think that we haven't scheduled in regards to the maramataka, and in supporting Councillor Shortland's question, that the move to the maramataka could be something that we could look at and then bring back as a workshop, I believe, because part of what's important around looking at scheduling around maramataka is also for the council to understand the kaupapa and the decision making that comes from that type of scheduling. So if that's all right with you, Councillor Shortland, we'll pull together what that looks like and bring it to a workshop for council to understand what the maramataka is and the scheduling is.
Okay, thanks, Oriel.
Thank you, Oriel. Yeah, it concerns me a bit that I know that we had asked for it and for staff just to disregard that. I'd like to learn a bit more about when and, you know, how you notify us that you've decided not to move forward on something. Of course, now we're 2 years in, and, you know, by the time we have this conversation and Chris gets her head around how to do it, maybe go and talk to FNDC or others, and then we'll be at end of term. So, you know, realistically, it probably will be something for the next council, but operationally, that would be great if you guys could begin to get your head around it and brief us along the way. Thank you.
Thank you, Jono.
Oh, kia ora, Chair. My apologies, I don't recall and don't have it. It's not that operations have just ignored the request. I just don't recall the request being there for us to have a schedule around the maramataka.
We talked about it when we were at Russell at our very first, you know, get together.
Oh, gosh.
Okay. Oh, very happy for us to start working around that if that's council's wish. And my apologies, that hadn't been a direction I'd passed to staff to have a schedule to present to you today around the maramataka. But very happy, as Oriel has suggested, that we bring that to council through workshops to discuss what that would look like.
Yep. So do we need to record an action of that, or?
Happy for that to be recorded as an action for us to bring that back to council workshop. Yes.
Okay. Any other discussion around this point?
Just a comment and a question in terms of socialising and any decisions around the calendar. Is this discussed in councillor only time?
Hasn't been. No, hasn't been discussed.
Okay. Could you share with us what is discussed in councillor only time?
Not at this meeting, no. But if you'd like to maybe dial in this afternoon, we can have a discussion. But we've just got to move on, Peter Lucas. So these are not questions for this meeting.
Mr. Chair, it's really just around how ideas are socialised.
A copy of this A3 to each councillor.
Okay.
Great to take home and colour on the kitchen wall.
Okay. You want a wall calendar?
No, just colour, thanks.
Okay. All right. So all in favour?
Aye.
Against?
It's It's handy.
Okay, we've got the Regional Rescue Service.
Now, I'll declare a conflict of interest and I will, it's got a good chance to leave and get a cup of tea, so you can have a discussion.
Any other body want a cup of tea while Richard?
So Chair, I'll move all three recommendations.
Okay. So,
I'm happy to second.
okay, thanks, Amy. Okay, so we've got three recommendations. We've workshopped this. We've got Joe, has you got any discussion around this?
No, there's been extensively workshopped and given huge amount of consideration. I think we've got to a place that the whole council's got behind. So I'd just like to get on with it and resolve our position.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, Amy, you got any thoughts?
I guess I just wanted to make it clear that in resolving to cancel that funding which had been previously agreed to St John, that wasn't in any way a decision around the importance of the service to the region or the value that they bring to the people of Northland. It was really about looking at financial need of all the different service providers in the emergency services space and recognising that we've got an opportunity to allocate resources to those who have less of their own funding base. So just thanking St John for the work that they do and happy that we can strategically use that rating take to support other agencies which have a much smaller financial base to operate from.
Peter Lucas and then you, John.
Kia ora. I mean, like, I think, like, you know, it's important for us to understand, you know, does the reallocation of these funds align with the council's mandate and core responsibilities, or are there any concerns that have been identified about shifting resources away from one essential emergency service and making them available for others, and just the criteria around how we might address these sorts of things in the future?
Okay, John.
So I'm fairly uncomfortable with number two and probably will be voting against it, because I think if you've allocated money to a organisation and, you know, we went out, we took this to the public as well, pretty big support for St John's and all these operations we're looking at here. I would, if I said I was going to pay someone, I would. If they haven't got an accountant, well, yes, I understand it's a technicality, but I certainly wouldn't pull away from. So I'd like you to vote on them separately today.
Yep. You'll be registering your vote again. So you want to take these, but Joe and Amy have moved it and seconded it. Now, did you take them all together?
Separate. Look, I'm happy for them to be.
Yeah, I don't mind separating them.
Separated.
All right.
We'll move in.
So we'll just take 1 and 3 first. Okay.
Yeah.
So all those in favour to accept 1 and 3?
Aye.
Against? Okay, passed. Okay.
And that was a question from me, Mr. Chair, that I asked. It was about alignment with core responsibilities. I'm supportive of the recommendations, but I was hoping for a response around future issues like this that might come up. Alignment with core responsibilities. Is there perhaps a response from the staff?
Thanks, Chair. So firstly, we've taken the legal advice to confirm that this approach is legitimate. Secondly, any alignment will be retained because essentially the funds, either your options are to reallocate those at a future date to other rescue service providers, and or you could potentially decide to utilise this reserve balance to offset the targeted rate for 1 year, 2 years going forward. So that alignment is still there. There's no misalignment. The fact is St John's supported funding, didn't use it, and that basis we're suggesting let's move on and retain that in the reserve so it can either be reallocated or used to offset rates, which is aligned with the purpose of the funding.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, I think that's a really helpful response. And just a follow up, just so when we do have situations like this, we have some more information around how to address them. I'm keen to understand what consultation, if any, has been conducted with key stakeholders such as these emergency service providers or partner agencies regarding this specific decision.
Yes.
So we did reach out to both of these entities and inquired as to with St John as to why they hadn't utilised the funds. They provided an answer to that. They indicated they would have liked to have the funds. However, our recommendation is that based on previous council decision to not allocate St John funding, this is consistent along those lines of that same decision, and we would want to go back and make a decision consistent.
Oh, thank you. And through you, Mr. Chair, one final question. There was some funds that were related to a need to address Māori and rural concerns, and they may have been related to a different agreement. How do we hope, and through you, Mr. Chair, to our staff, how do we hope to address those sorts of concerns with groups that are providing a service funded by the council in the future, so that we can get across those issues with them rather than having to address an inability to deliver very late in the piece?
Thanks, Councillor Jones. I understand that is in relation to the St John's funding that was previously awarded, where they were hoping to utilise some of that funding to support Māori and Pacifica in their own organisations' activities through volunteers. They have an $81 million reserve. I'd assume that they could potentially fund this work out of that reserve if it was absolutely essential.
Okay, thanks, Bruce. We have workshopped this, so we're all well aware of the information. Phil, you got your hand up?
Kia ora. Yes, we have workshopped this, but this is the chambers where we deliberate things and vote publicly. I've been consistent, and I'm going to say the same today. If we said we were going to give them money, we should give them the money. Back when we did our planning around how we would allocate money, did we foresee that the major amount of frontline health positions being cancelled by the government? Did we foresee that? Are we turning on the news and seeing what is going on outside in terms of the health sector? I just think that it's, you know, we don't, there's no need for us to keep the money. We just put up like all this big surplus, and it's $90,000. I think that we should stay true to our number and we should pay it, and I'm putting that down for the record. Kia ora.
Well, you've got an opportunity to vote on it, so
that's exactly why I'm here. I know I have the opportunity to vote on it. Thank you, Jeff, but I'm just saying my piece.
okay. All right, so we're going to take item 2. So all in favour of...
You actually have a mover and a seconder, because I understand.
Oh,
it's within 3.
Happy to move it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, sorry.
Second again?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to take recommendation number 2. So all in favour of...
Sorry, just speaking through that motion, I felt like what Councillor Backwell said, that we committed the money towards them in the past, and I want to stand by it as well. I've said it in the workshop at times.
Okay, so we've got an opportunity, right?
Yeah.
So, okay, so we'll vote
Just be clear, we're voting, you're asking us to vote to cancel that.
Yes, the council resolves to cancel the final 2 years, 23 to 24 allocation, the 21 to 24 emergency services fund to St John's of $90,000 per annum. So that's what we're voting for. Okay, so
Maybe I'll just speak to it one more time,
Yep.
since I'm one of the movers and the seconders and the conversation's gone around a bit. I think I want to go back to what I said originally, and this decision is not one about the value of what St John's offer to our community. It's actually a decision around allocation of funds across our community to achieve equity, from my perspective. When we looked into the financials of St John's, they are in a very healthy position, and I hear the bigger question around the frontline health services too, and I completely agree. However, when we look across our emergency services providers that we look to support through this fund, St John are an absolute outlier in terms of their baseline. So for me, what we are doing here is taking public funds and making them available to smaller, in some cases more isolated providers, and that to me is a really good way to provide regional equity. And I think there's an affordability piece here as well, which is around the opportunity. We haven't decided yet, and that will be decided at a later meeting, but the opportunity to hold those resources to offset further rate increases in this targeted rate. So, yeah, I mean, that's enough from me.
Okay. Plenty of time to say what you like.
Yeah.
All right, so do you want me to read it out again, or we're all clear on resolution 2? So all in favour of recommendation 2?
Aye.
Okay, that's 4. Okay, against?
No.
No. Lucas.
Nothing to do.
Okay.
No, 2's against as well.
Four. So it's up to Rick.
You can't see, for some reason we cannot see Councillor Shortland, but I assure you she's voted against, so.
So then it sits on the table.
No, you
Casting decision.
have the opportunity, if you wish to use your casting vote as chair.
Okay.
Mr Chairman, I think I'd just like to discuss the ability for Councillor Stolwick to vote on this, because it doesn't actually affect the item that he's conflicted in.
No,
Do we have
there's
a
no conflict and
There's no conflict with regard to this item. He's only sat out of the room because he's an entity, or he's involved with the life-saving organisation.
And he also doesn't have any pecuniary benefit in my view. But what I would say to help perhaps move things along is value for money and community impact. And I think what metrics or reporting mechanisms will be used to track the impact of these funds to ensure transparency for ratepayers.
I don't think that's what we're discussing. We're discussing on how we move forward on this vote. So do we bring in Rick
That's
Stolwick?
the point that I'm making, Mr. Chair.
I recommend we don't.
That's the
Do
point
we
that
need a
I'm making,
recommendation
Mr. Chair.
or how we vote?
I would, point of order, I would like to hear the councillors speak. You just said to Councillor McDonald, there's plenty of time to speak. And I keep hearing you cut off Councillor Jones, and being not in the room, it starts to go really like jumbled and confused. So if we could just have one speaker and you know, I believe that Councillor McDonald raised what Peter Lucas is talking about. She said in the future that this money will be spent on rah-de-rah-de-rah. Now, Councillor Jones is asking how are we assured that the money is going to be spent like that? It's part of the debate. Thank you.
This is not part of the debate. The debate is whether we get a resolution on moving forward, on whether
the debate is about whether or not councillors and our own votes, whether or not we, you know, I partially agree with Amy, but do I more agree with John? That's what we're doing in the room. And Amy raised a positive point, and so now Peter Lucas is responding, and we're all.
Okay, so we're at a 4-4. Where do we go now? So I can either make the casting vote, or do we bring in?
Ultimately, it's for the elected member to decide whether they have a conflict of interest or a perceived conflict of interest, and whether they want to be involved in the discussion. It's not for us to direct Councillor Stolwick.
So do we ask him, or do we just make a decision?
Mr Chairman, I would ask him. I think it's up to him, as Chris has just said, to make his own mind up. And I think we should ask him, because that's a better way of resolving the issue than asking for a casting vote.
Okay.
So I have a different view on that point. Is Councillor Stolwick made an informed choice to withdraw from this? He's withdrawn. He's withdrawn from this entire discussion. Done that.
All right.
He's done that.
Okay.
And to actually say, oh, do you want to reconsider that? No, the gentleman has put out,
Okay,
publicly done so.
right. So then I'll take the casting vote.
Sorry, can I just, as a councillor Stallworth walked up because he's involved with
For whatever. he's
yeah,
doing.
no, but there was a perception or probable perception that the recommendation is going to go forward as stated, as written here, that there wouldn't be a bone of contention over recommendation 2, which is different to the conflict of interest that Councillor Stallworth might have. I'd be happy for him to come up.
I don't think it's appropriate. So there's a second part to this, and it's how that $180,000 is used, and that will be considered across all of our providers, which includes the one that Rick has a perceived conflict of interest with. I think it's unfair if we try and bring him in at this point. And just while I'm speaking, I think just responding to Peter Lucas's question in the comments, which is around the future reallocation. There was a set of criteria that we worked with Peter Lucas on revisiting this when we found we had some funds that hadn't been allocated. So we haven't determined yet what will be done, but my expectation is it will be a workshop. So maybe that would be helpful, Jono, if we can put in here clarity around.
Just to confirm, and happy to for that, it is maybe there is a secretarial note in the minutes if you'd like, that any future allocation of those funds is a council decision. And in doing so, we would have a workshop with council, and then there'd be a future resolution by council.
So we had criteria that looked at that maximum benefit, but that's, you know, subject to us refining them further. So I think it's an ongoing conversation about how to get the best investment for the community. So yeah, I'm supportive of the higher conversation we're having here.
Does that answer your question, Councillor Jones?
It does, and I just want to thank you for that kind and straightforward response, having earlier been cut off by the chair unnecessarily.
Okay, John?
I just want to move on, and I think Rick did choose to leave the room, and catch up on this will take quite a while. So I'm quite happy for him to make a decision on this.
Okay. Well, I support the recommendation 2. Right, I want to say
So it's carried.
carried. Okay, carried. All right, page 52.
Yeah, Colin's just gone to get him.
Let's just put it in quick
We've done that a second time.
I should stick. What you doing for job?
So you're having a break now?
No,
Happy to go with the recommendation. Yes, one.
Okay, chasing out. Chasing out.
No, have that on people. Wish I, you know.
Yep. That's all good.
Okay, request, page 52, item 7.4.
Yes, I'll move.
Okay, that's good. Joe,
Thank you.
did you say Jack? You,
No, I'll leave you guys to it.
okay, John? Okay,
God, rounding up to there.
let's go, Joe.
Oh, yeah, no, look, this is just straightforward. If the staff recommend this as the way of using the particular resources across Northland, staff resources to achieve this output, I just accept their knowledge there. It is going to be a shared service across Northland, so quite comfortable that funds will be used appropriately. So I divide up and fragment it. Yeah, no, I think it's good. So comfortable.
John?
Agree, go with option 1. Thank you.
Okay. So we take the 2 recommendations.
Yep.
Yeah.
All in favour?
Aye.
Against?
Aye.
Okay, passed. Okay, page 56. Item
Through
7.
you, Mr. Chair, I did make a statement in the chat here, and it is because road safety is such an essential public service. Might I ask a question before we move on?
Yep. John and Joe are here.
And it's really about jurisdiction and oversight. How will Northland Regional Council monitor WDC's performance to ensure that it aligns with Northland's road safety priorities?
Yes, Mr. Powell's here, perhaps he can answer.
Very good, Chair. To the councillor, we have quarterly regional transport committee meetings, and at those meetings, the road safety contingent of Northland, all the road safety partners, they put up a full report detailing what they've done, how they've done, where they've done it. So there is a full quarterly report.
Yeah. Statistical reporting. Well, yeah. All right. Proposed allocation budget, go up to page 56, item 7.5.
Could we carry those two recommendations, please, Chair?
Yeah. Go past. Yeah. Okay, so we've got 3 recommendations, and we've got Don here.
I'm happy to move all 3, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Jack. I'll second it. Yes. Okay, Jack.
I think the report is good. Has been forced by the sort of the lack of immediacy attached to the issue by the other authorities. If we really care about protecting Northland generally, and particularly those key areas from the threat of gold clam, we simply must do this because the eggs are essentially microscopic. We don't have a realistic option of eradication. The only option we really have is to keep it out. So I think this is timely, and I think it's a good idea. Yes, it is eating into our reserve, but the financial and the environmental and the economic implications of gold clam in Northland would be appalling. Everything from irrigation to inland navigation to ecological and cultural, spiritual values are kind of too overwhelming to be contemplated. So I support this to the hilt. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Jack. Yeah, I also support this, but I think the long term, do we need to bring this to our LTP and embed it? Because, you know, this is supposed to be our emergency fund. You know, how does this affect if we get avian bird flu at the same time? That sort of stuff. So just where do we go to? The other thing I'd really like to bring to conversation is the comms plan. Have we discussed this with the minister? Do we need to have a meeting with the minister or John Welsh, for example? What is the comms plan for people coming north? You know, there's a whole lot of issues that we need to deal with around this. So go to Don. We'll go to Don.
Mr. Chair. And yes, this has arisen from Council's decision to establish a biosecurity reserve through the long-term plan. Intention is to try and not draw down on this forever. We would seek to put forward a proposal to the annual plan process or long-term plan as part of some ongoing funding. But in saying that, there is a discussion to be had with MPI about their approach to pests like this. We are encouraging them to develop a national freshwater pathway plan that would help clean dirty trailers, dirty boats that come to Northland Lakes and use those. Those discussions need to continue, but in the meantime, we risk this summer being left a little bit exposed with those visitors that would bring perhaps infected craft from the Waikato.
Okay, like I know Nikki's pretty staunch on this. She did an outstanding job last summer, didn't she? She set it up herself. And did we get a washing facility from MPI?
Yes, we did. We got a trailer that we put there, and that might be available again this year. So,
so it's a might be, not a given.
Yeah, well, we really have to sort out how we're going to do this. I think this year's one will be a little bit reduced in terms of presence, but we will be there in some form. Again, we would encourage the Kaipara District Council to come in and support this. I think they've got capacity issues there. But Te Roro and Te Kuihi Hapu have been very, very supportive of the work and wish to see it continue.
Okay. Donna, you were going to respond? No. Okay, Peter Lucas and then Marty.
Kia ora. I think that, the council's responsibility for biosecurity is, absolutely critical to maintaining our region's environmental health. And while I support the efforts contained within this document to address emerging threats like the gold clam infestation, I mean, overspending in pest control raises concerns as well in terms of value for money. And given the overspend on pest control, how will the council ensure that these new funds are used effectively and within budget?
Well, through you, Mr. Chair, this $160,000 being proposed wouldn't be an overspend. It would come from the existing reserve fund, which from memory, I think has about $460,000 in it, or thereabouts. And that fund is replenished only with...
Just for clarification, my question is, how will these funds be used effectively and within budget? Noting the previous conversation related to the financial report.
Okay. So our budget has tentative budget has been set out in the paper there. We haven't drilled down into the details of that, but broadly speaking, the budget will be split up between the funding of kaimahi ranges from Te Roro and Te Kuihi. There's $100,000 there. ED&A surveillance to try and detect if we have gold clam present in the lakes at about 30,000. Publicity, material and awareness, 15, and the washdown setup and the costs of that, which will be about another 15,000. So we have split it between what we see as having a physical presence there at the lakes, but also we do need to have some science technology working for us as well, and some campaigns elsewhere in the region.
In terms of the dune lakes and Māori engagement, particularly in the far north, how are those iwi and hapu being involved in these biosecurity efforts, or is it just focused really on the Kaipara area?
That's a good question, Councillor Peter-Lucas. We have an extended campaign that reaches out to our iwi in the far north, and particularly in Te Hiku, where we have lakes protection programs going on with other work like pest fish netting, monitoring and so on. Now, last summer there was awareness work undertaken up there by some of the kaimahi from Te Rarawa, Ngai Takato, and so we're not sure this year yet. We haven't got the details of it, but we would expect similar sort of publicity awareness to go on there this summer. They're important lakes.
Yes, and so like in terms of core business alignment, and this is obviously spending that's aligned with Northland Regional Council's environmental mandate, how are we going to contribute to mitigating the risks of places like Lake Ngātu, for example, being infested by the golden clam, especially over the coming months in the lead up to summer, when we know that that's a particular lake that has a lot of activity?
Yes, and going again by last summer's activities, there was signage there and a close working relationship with Ngai Takato to ensure that, you know, the message got out. I think there, you know, in terms of the risks where you're using boats and that, there's probably less risk at Lake Ngātu for that, but there's still, as you pointed out, like waka used there, canoes brought up and so on. So again, some sort of summer awareness campaign needs to go on in that lake in particular, where you have all this public access going on. Yeah.
Jono, you got a response there? Kia ora, Chair. Just following up on Councillor Jones's query, Don, I'm just trying to get a handle on 160k is a limited pool and a limited capacity there. Just wanting to make sure that we're clear with our councillors as to the level of activity around the region. From what I see here, the majority of the concentrated effort will be around the Kaipara, for that's where a lot of from the Waikato are coming up to. Just wanting to make sure we're really crystal clear around what level of service we will be and awareness we will be providing in Te Huku, for example, and just so we're clear. And if councillors think that there should be a higher level of service, then you might need to consider a higher amount of money to be on the table if that's where councillors wish to go. But I just wish to be really clear as to what we are able to deliver for that 160k and what we're not.
Yes, it's a good question, John, because we wouldn't be able to afford paid kaimahi for those lakes, like as we are doing for Taro and Paiiwi. But there would be publicity material and an awareness campaign there for that. And I believe there's a workshop coming up for council soon where we're looking to explore the wider needs of this in a proactive way. And at that workshop, I think there'd be an opportunity to put forward a larger scale and more extensive physical presence on the ground for coming summers.
Okay, any other discussion around this? Marty?
Yeah, I've got a question regarding, it's all about boats and vessels. I don't know the life cycle of a golden clam as to whether if it's in wet weather gear or wet gear, how long can it survive out of the water? For instance, people swimming in the Waikato, if they don't have a boat, or they might go fishing, fall in or whatever, what is the life cycle? And I think that needs to be got out there for publicity. For it's not just boats and things, but let people know how long it can survive out of water.
It is a very good point, because it can survive in any kind of water that's kept in the bottom of a bilge or a farm machinery pump, like a water pump or things like that.
Yeah.
And so that will be part of the messaging.
Okay, John, you had a hand up?
It's rather like Kalupa, isn't it? It's a huge problem coming our way.
Yeah,
And we do have some of the best dune lakes north, East Coast. But getting back to Marty's point too, does it get carried by birds? Because you can see it spreading down Waikato. I mean, it doesn't like salt water. We've got a big Kaipara harbour here too, which has salt and fresh water. Erosion is a shit for that area. So I'm thinking about Kaipara Council, because that's my area. Should we be trying to work with Kaipara Council, maybe ban boats on these major lakes? If they understood the ramifications of this, because I think with Kalupa, we've only got an idea of what it's going to affect our shellfish and all that. But with fresh water, we've seen the Huntly Power Station come to grief with the plants blocking up their intake for water. Just imagine all the fresh water we have in North, all these small outfits. I'm thinking about my water pump. I've got it near. I have to be in there every week cleaning it. So if we knew the full cost of this, and we've got a good case to possibly Kaipara Council or Core Council, that's something we should be looking at.
I think that and other regulations should be explored at the workshop. We'd like to bring to council at that workshop these sorts of issues, and look, we're very much encouraging Kaipara District Council to step up here, and I think that the forecasted impacts of freshwater gold clam are very obvious, and it's going to be a significant economic impact on the region if it was established.
But can it be carried by bird?
There's no evidence of that at this point. No.
Like hunters, there's a big risk. That's what we saw in the Bay of down the Hawke's Bay area. They were really concerned about duck punts and waders and stuff
Waders
like
and duck punts, anything that can carry water and have the larvae in that water, it's an issue.
I thought it could stick to a boat though and survive some time out of the water.
Yes, it needs moisture, but you're right, the larvae only needs a small amount of water in the bilges or anything like that, or mud in there to survive in, and they have to be thoroughly cleaned.
Yeah, a little bit like in boats.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, sorry, Jack. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Look, councillors are raising really important questions. These are vital questions, and I've raised most of these on the 15th with an email to the CEO on the matter, and he agreed that we need a workshop. To me, it's imperative we have a workshop and we invite KDC and we have some experts there to inform us all, because I think we all need to be informed about the, like the vectors and the risks, and get some idea about economic and ecological and cultural risk, the whole gamut. So it's an important issue. It's like callirpa, it's like carrier dieback, it's like foot and mouth. It's something that we councillors need to be across, because this could end up costing the ratepayers a lot of money. And so I think a workshop for councillors is imperative, and I'd like to see that organised fairly soon. Thank you.
Okay, Jono's got a response there.
Oh no, just a second clarification, so we make sure we meet what's being looked for. Just seeking clarification from council that you're actually looking for Kaipara District Council to be invited, and you're looking for both politicians and management. Is that, I hadn't
Yes,
picked
please.
up on that bit.
That is my view, and also I think we try and get as much external expertise in the room as possible, because this is the gravity of it situation.
So we're
We
meeting.
can do that, just wanting to make sure that that's what we're wanting to organise.
And I'm happy to meet over there, by the way. We have to.
Yeah, John.
Why just Kaipara? We're dealing with Auckland, we're dealing with Far North and Whangarei.
Okay.
Yeah.
Happy to keep it wide.
Just to note that the larger you get it, make it, the slower, or the more moving parts you need to try and coordinate. So it'll mean that it's further out. Just that's just the reality of.
Okay, we are meeting with MPs next week. It'll be a high topic that we'll bring up. Put it on our agenda. Yeah.
Sorry, I might just again clarification. NRC, KDC, any more?
No, I'm not sure now, because you've got to balance the act up.
Yeah.
Well, we have got Lake Ngātu though, which is one of those pristine ones, isn't it? So as observer or something.
I'd be guided by the staff. Yeah, Don.
Oh, through you, Mr. Chair, and just something to consider at that workshop. Staff thought that we would bring to that workshop some proposals for the upcoming annual plan.
Yeah.
And it's just a question to council whether that you want that to be discussed first before we brought in other agencies, or whether you wanted an open workshop.
Well, Amy did have her hand
I
up.
think we need two workshops. Sorry, Jono. So I think there's a really important internal NRC workshop where we tackle the budget question and the capacity question and how much we're going to invest. But the essential conversation is also the one with KDC. And also, I guess, and I know it's really complicated, but I really believe we need to bring some people up from the Waikato to talk to us about how bad it is down there, because it's so bad. And I think that, and by the time it's here and we freak out and then we throw everything at it, it's too late. So we really need to go through that process of understanding the impact that it will have, and then being willing to do some hard things and some expensive things. So I want us to go on that journey with KDC and Te Roroa, and who I know are in support of being protective of those lakes. And I guess the opportunity is to focus on the Kaiwi lakes, because they're our main pathway. If we look at the risk, they're the highest risk, and then especially this summer. So I think whatever we do will then be for the whole region, but we start there because that's kind of a scale at which we can operate. So that would be my suggestion, if possible, ASAP.
Yeah.
John, if I could just provide a suggestion, because timeliness is a factor for us here, if we go with just an NRC first workshop around what our options are and what funding, given where the annual plan timing is. I'm just looking at my email and I note that the next Northern Forward Together meeting is actually hosted by Kaipara District Council, is on the 19th of November, and subject to Mayor Jepson's openness, we could advocate for this to be a topic on that agenda.
Why not?
And see if we can potentially get someone from Waikato to come up as well and speak to that. So if that's an avenue, we could try and advocate through there, and failing that, if it wasn't able to get on that agenda, we could look for a November workshop just with ourselves and KDC around the wider options.
And through you, Mr. Chair, we have our workshop slot at the moment for the 13th of November. That's a standard.
Just before that, that'd be great.
Sound.
Now, Rick, sorry I've been missing you.
No. I was just it's a search and rescue at the moment, so I was following that as well. So
okay.
I got zapped about it and couldn't go, sitting in the council meeting. both my questions have been answered. Don on the annual plan, and I was going to mention North and Ford together, so done. So I think we're still going to get, surely we can have an input and we put it, what we put into North and Ford together as well. We haven't got to rely on just Mayor Jepson.
Yep, whoever the host council is runs the agenda, so when it's NRC's turn, we facilitate the agenda. Usually the councils reach out and ask that they'll put something up and they'll check in, but at the end of the day, it's their mayor's call as to what's on the agenda, given they're the host. I'll lobby them. Don't worry about that, I'll lobby them. Okay, so you happy with that, Rick?
Yeah.
Marty?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Okay, it's passed.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay, Fiona Oni Roa Tohi opposed plan change, 7.6, page 60.
I'm happy to move the Te Aotearoa Tohe plan change.
Okay. Okay. Okay, Marty? Joe?
You want to speak to it, Marty?
Marty?
Just to say that the whole of the beach management board is starting to get some momentum with the management plan. I'm happy for them to be tweaking it where necessary and to leave it to the board to, in fact, to approach the board for there to be driven by them, guided by them, I should say. For anything that needs to be tweaked.
So if they take all these 3 recommendations?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, Joe?
No, it's good. It's been well canvassed at the board meetings, and it's good that we're supporting this as a council. It's nice to support it.
All right, Joe. I see we've got Peter Lucas. You're on mute, Councillor Jones.
Aroha mai, I wasn't sure if I'd been purposefully muted like Tui was earlier. I would just like to mention that the proposed plan change is a significant step forward, I think, towards sustainable environmental management, but also our commitment to working with our iwi partners. I do just have one question, and it's a question that leads into extending on what the plan represents for our relationship with whānau hapu and iwi. And it's really about how does the plan align with the co-governance framework with Te Aotearoa Tohe Board, and how will iwi involvement be guaranteed throughout the process, mindful of those priority areas that are raised in the executive summary. But I'm also mindful that that there could be longer term benefits if we think about how things might be enhanced again in the future.
Okay, now Bob.
I am strongly in support of it. Kia ora.
All right. Any other conversation?
I just wonder, Chair, if whether Oriel and Ruben may have any kōrero that they wish to add to the paper. It's been quite a journey to get here to this, and it's quite a significant step in our relationship with the board.
I don't have a huge amount to add. I guess just by way of a response to Councillor Peter Lucas-Jones, as we pointed out in the recommendations, the proposed plan change will need to be endorsed by the beach board prior to being brought to council, and that alone suggests that we'll need to, in order for that to occur successfully, it will require a partnership with the board, and so it does represent another step in our journey in partnership with the beach board.
I think just to add, Chair, through the question is that it's part of our role as well too, through the co-governance board, to ensure that we are supporting a community's understanding through the iwi leadership of the cultural significance of Te Aotearoa Tohe, and the cultural narratives. So the work we've done and historically and still continue to do is provide good governance, administrative support, but also the iwi leadership is leveraging of funding and supporting through George's leadership as well too, to be able to look at tools and ways to map and tell the story of those significance. And so what we're also seeing is that there's a real strength in the iwi supporting that partnership as well. So the development, I think, historically has gone from where regional council and other councils were doing their technical work. Now the iwi leadership and representation is now going, this is what we need you to do, and this is the way we will share our stories around how important this governance board is and how significant the Tōnoroa Toki is. So I think it's very important, Councillor Peter Lucas-Jones, to say that we have come a long way, but we understand from the stalwarts and the chair, Lisa McNabb, that there is a lot more work we can do, both practically on the ground and at a governance level to support iwi.
Okay, thanks, Oriel. All right, I think that wraps it up. Well spoken. Okay, all in favour?
Aye.
Against? Okay, we got page 66, 7.7, air travel cost to attend Thailand familiarisation trip for New Zealand business, media and influencers. Okay, we got.
Move this motion.
Okay,
I'll be happy to second it.
John. I want to hear your conflict. Okay, there's conflict of interest here. Obviously, I'll be abstaining from voting. All right. Okay, Peter.
Will you still be chairing the session?
Don't see why not. Yes, I can be told otherwise.
Well, you have to decide your own conflicts. We can't. How you going? We can't.
Okay, I'll step out and delegate somebody else.
It's about perception.
Yeah.
Before you step out, do you want, because the person chairing the meeting needs to be in the room, so do you,
How does it work, Chris? If the
So-
chair is vacated, there isn't present, who
So-
chairs the meeting?
it typically falls to the deputy chair, but there's also a standing order that the chair facilitating the meeting must be in the room. So we're falling down to the third tier, so someone in the room should be chairing.
Oh,
I'm happy to
I'd
move
like
council
to nominate Jack.
Yep.
Okay.
He's nearest.
So I'll step out of the room.
Yeah. Shouldn't take long. Okay, thank you, everybody. We have three recommendations on the table. Moved and seconded. We've been moved and seconded. Pete Lucas and
I've
and
moved
John?
it.
Pete Lucas, any comment?
In terms of this, which is international travel, and especially when funded by ratepayers, I think we've always got to have, and we must deliver clear, measurable outcomes. And the trip to Thailand has raised concerns for me about selection processes, accountability, and alignment with council priorities. And I think that it's important that we ensure that residents have a tangible and receive a tangible value from this type of investment, and that we understand what the return on the investment is. So I would like to ask what specific economic or strategic benefits does the council expect from sending the chair on a trip to Thailand? And how will these outcomes be reported to ratepayers?
Okay, I guess it falls upon me to try and answer that. Thank you. I know in discussions.
I think, Mr. Chair, would that not be for the writer of the report to respond to?
Yeah, that's what
Sorry, perhaps respond to the question and say, in moving the motion, can you explain why you moved the motion, Councillor Jones, and what benefits you see and the chair going to Thailand?
Oh, that's point of order through the chair. That's an inappropriate question, and I think you should return to Councillor Jones's question.
Thank you. We'll deal with them in turn. First question is, who should respond to Peter Lucas's first question? I'd like to turn this to the CE. Thank you.
Kia ora, Councillor Jones. I think that there aren't any specific measurable outcomes that are listed within the paper. This is it's been put forward as a familiarisation and a promotion of the opportunities for investment in Northland. So as you can see in the paper, there aren't necessarily any tangible, measurable outcomes that are included there. Councillors may wish to consider putting in a request there, should it be approved, that the chair provides a written report back to councillors if that is of assistance for that accountability and transparency. But as far as I know, there aren't any specific measurable outcomes that I'm aware of.
Without a clear agenda, I think that representation at these types of forums can actually meander, actually leading to missed opportunities and can be perceived as a waste of time. I'd like to understand what our council will in fact be pitching and asking for through the chair attending this familiarisation trip. What are we
thank you
for?
Thank you, Councillor Jones. A fair question. In discussions that the council chair has had with us previously, it's about obviously establishing relationship, because no deals are ever done with foreign nations, especially Asian nations, without first establishing a close personal relationship. So I'm satisfied that is reasonable enough, but I know Jeff has also described that there's quite a keen interest by Thailand to invest in food processing here, not the farming side of it, but the processing, particularly of kingfish. So there's possibilities there. So they look pretty exciting. They look interesting enough for me to satisfy myself that it was a good idea to spend that money. Jono.
Good, Chair, just to add to that, my understanding is that should it be approved, the chair would be attending along with representative from Northland Inc, and that Northland Inc is as we speak preparing what the opportunity that would be pitched and presented through the visit. We could provide that to councillors. I don't have it at the moment. They're still developing it. As the chair pointed out, my understanding is one of the key components of what would be presented is the opportunity for investment and expansion of the Ruakaka Niwa Kingfish facility.
Okay then, in terms of transparency and decision making, and as the mover of this motion, I'm keen to understand through you, Mr. Chair, you mentioned that this was discussed previously. Was this discussed in councillor only time?
I believe it was. Can anyone refresh my memory? I think it was discussed in COT, yes.
Okay then, following on from that, how will the council ensure transparency and accountability for decisions that are made in non-public forums?
Well, I suggest that you...
No decisions.
No decision was made at that forum. I suggest that you may want to move another further recommendation that the chair provide a full report upon his return on the outcomes.
I'm just a little bit concerned because my questions actually reflect concerns and expectations of Northland residents regarding financial management, service delivery and transparency. And I'm keen to understand through you, Mr. Chair, what rules actually govern councillor only time, because the CEO might be able to answer this. Is that a workshop or a meeting?
That's neither of those things. Jono.
To the chair, standing orders don't apply to councillor any time. Councillor any time as a staff don't attend. It's for councillors to have free and frank kōrero. No decisions can be made in councillor only time, and it's not an uncommon approach for councils to have an opportunity for councillors to come together by themselves.
Thank you. Councillor Shortland's had a hand up for a wee while.
Oh, thank you. Well, this conversation has become quite interesting. So I guess my first question of clarification was also going to be, where did you have those previous conversations that made you satisfied, Councillor Jack? Because, and now understanding that, how many people have already discussed this and are already satisfied and come with a predetermined vote? Because otherwise, what are we doing here?
Well, I don't think that's a fair question. The decision is made right here.
Well, it is a fair question because, you know, some councils have gotten together and discussed this thoroughly by the sounds of it. You have more information than Councillor Jones and I. Even Jono has more information about, oh, now we're going over to get expansion for the ruakaka and the niwa fish. So I don't recall that coming through a committee, a workshop. This is all very confusing to me.
Thank you, Councillor. We're talking about approving $2,000 to send the chair to a familiarisation tour to Thailand. None of the outcomes are guaranteed. The decision about whether we spend this money has been made here and now. It was socialised at COT. Everyone's entitled to either turn up or to attend online. So I don't think we need to go into any more detail on that. I think I'd be quite keen to put the motion, quite frankly.
Yeah.
I still haven't had my 3 minutes where I originally had my hand up.
Sure, I'll give you another minute and a half then.
I don't believe my questions of clarification around COT and around how councillors came to already have a reassurance on their vote today. I don't see that as counting as my 3 minutes.
No, I think that's a misinterpretation. I think there's been no decision made by anyone or prior to today's meeting. Today is the first time this has been put to council.
I would definitely like to hear from everybody who also was in the council only time and may have any ideas about this as well. But my questions are around this motion. I'll start my 3 minutes now. We delegate regional economic development to Northland Inc. and we pay them millions of dollars to do that. And sometimes their international trips, I feel like my constituents would not really like it. But a lot of it is already funded externally. You know, all of us fund Northland Inc. and Northland Inc. are the right body to do this. However, when I see this on the agenda and I want to ask their board, who's our people who we've elected into this role, do you think they know about it? Do you think they know anything about this, the board?
I can't answer that. I can inquire to see if, I'm sure Northland Inc. do know about it because I know Vaughan Cooper was mentioned as a possible inclusion in the party. But I can ask, John, maybe answer that question.
I don't know if the board knows about it. It's for their management as to whether they've informed their board. We can inquire for you.
Are you suggesting that we send the chair of our council to an event that the board of a staff member of a somewhat subsidiary entity is not aware of?
I think you're drawing along, but I'm not sure whether the Northland Inc. board needs to know. But I'm willing to ask the CE to ask on your behalf if their board does know. Whether the board knows or not, I'm not sure it's entirely relevant for such a small item. But however, I will ask Jono to ask. Thank you.
We're just trying to find where this all links.
I'm very happy to support Councillor Jones's motion that we send the chair that we fund the chair to get to Thailand on a familiarisation tour to try and get investment into Northland. I think it's a very good motion, Councillor Jones, and I support it.
Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
if everyone is finished, Mr. Chair, I will be exercising my right of reply.
Well, I'm not sure if anyone's finished yet or not. Thank you, Peter Lucas. Any other comments, John?
Yeah, I support this motion because I sort of see Northern Regional Councils often putting things in the way of businesses in Northern, requirements, what happens to dairy farmers. And this is a chance that we can bring money into Northern or possibly investment. And I think it's a great opportunity. I think our chair is a very good person to do this role right now. And I believe our rate increase should be connected to the GDP of Northland. And in that case, we probably wouldn't have a rate increase for another few years. But this could go well towards increasing the economic growth of Northland. So I do support Jeff Crawford.
I think that's a reach. I think that we need to stay in our lane and do flood mitigation and this type of thing, and we shouldn't be spending our ratepayers' money on going to tropical.
Yeah, thank you, Tui. You've had your. I'm going.
I haven't had all of my time.
Well, I think you have. You've used a lot more than 3 minutes, by the way. So but I rule that you have. So, Joe.
Oh, yeah. Look, I support what effectively was Councillor Peter Lucas's closure motion. And let's vote on it.
Any others? Thank you. Brett, hand up.
Yeah, I got interrupted before, but in terms of council own time, we seem to be going back to it, and we've said there's no decisions making, and there's also, nobody mentioned recording. There's no recording of that. And I'm just trying to look up. Jeff sent an email here saying he was meeting with Thailand, and I can't find it, but he's definitely mentioned here. So everybody knew that he was meeting with them, or he had met with them, or they were coming. So everybody had the opportunity to ask him questions about it. So, I've known about it. I've known he had the meeting for a long time because it was July sometime. So we've earlier. So we've had plenty of time to ask these questions. I can't see why we bring them up now.
Well, because because of standing orders.
You're out of turn. You're out of turn.
Standing orders.
I think I just want to recognise that it hasn't been a great process to bring us to this decision, and I think that's unfortunate because it shifts the discussion that we have around the table about how we can make the best of this opportunity and whether it's an opportunity we should invest in, and it turns into a discussion about how poor the process has been. So I just want to put that on the table for myself. I would rather us be confident in the process that brings things to the table so that then we can actually debate the thing on the table rather than have a whole lot of outside influences. So I do want to acknowledge that Tui and Peter Lucas probably feel a bit blindsided by this. It's in the agenda, yes, the information is provided, but I think it's valid what's been raised, and it takes away from the opportunity for us to actually talk about the value or not of what the recommendations are about. So I guess just voicing my disappointment that I think we need to follow a really good process, and that will make things a lot smoother when it comes to these decisions and enable us to elevate the conversation in a way that would be much more my preference.
Okay, Tui, you have one. Tui, further question?
Yeah, I just, even the way it's written up, it's poorly done. We know, we just established a subcommittee to assist us in our expense process. Councillor Jack, you did say at that agenda item that there's a reason for that, because you don't want us councillors to have to come to this meeting and ask for money. And here a councillor has come to this meeting to ask for money. Usually Jeff's expenses go through me. So, that was, I know it's referred, you can possibly bring it here, but this is not normal. And it may feel normal for those of you that sat through it in council only time, but our standing orders say that our don't and the debate is properly meant to be here. So I don't understand why we keep getting shut down because you've already had the debate.
Well, Councillor, I don't think you can claim that you've been shut down. I mean, we're having this debate now. Also, the bit about personal expenses and council expenses are two totally different issues, and they're not related in the slightest. So, but anyway, Does anyone else want to have a say on this before I put the motion?
Well, I would like to exercise my right of reply.
Thank you.
Look, I think the Thailand familiarization trip is controversial, particularly because public funding for travel to tropical destinations like Thailand may raise concerns about value for money, particularly given ratepayer funding for international travel with unclear direct benefits to the region is a concern for me. And I mean, key issues for us to consider is justification of the return on investment for the trip, the selection of the participants, the potential public perception of unnecessary expenditure. These are things that we must think about, particularly when we see that, that the priority areas for investment are not clearly articulated or known to those of us that are making a decision right now. Alignment with infrastructure projects, I think, is missing. Alignment with investment priority areas is not clear. There seems to be a lack of documentation around how this was actually discussed in councillor-only time and what rules actually govern that way in which elected members discuss and make recommendations, obviously, because this idea would have been recommended to operations for the development of a paper for decision in the first place. So I think it's fair to say that we need to consider ratepayer expectations, and with clearly no specific economic or strategic benefit articulated. I mean, what does the council expect from the Thailand trip? And I mean, asking ourselves how we're going to report this to residents is important, because we're not clearly understanding, I believe, how we're actually going to measure the effectiveness of this trip in the first place. So whilst I have moved the motion, I am not supportive of a trip that has no clear ask. I still can't see who we would be pitching to, who the potential investors are, what their investment strategic areas are. Those are a lot of relevant questions, particularly when we're asking ratepayers to pay more money annually.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor. I'd just like to ask Jono to respond. There's quite a number of issues there, but I think the salient one is, what's the agenda there when you go there? And also there's two. Do we expect a report from the chair on his return? I'd be quite prepared to take an amended motion to state that he must provide if the mover and seconder are happy, that we add a further recommendation that a full report be provided by the chair upon his return. But I'd like to ask Jono about the
If that's the case, Mr. Chair, what in fact is the reporting framework by which we would like the chair to report on? There's no areas or priorities that we have articulated as an expected area to ask for investment, and there's no knowledge of the strategic investment policy of any of the relevant people that we understand.
It's very detailed, Councillor. I'd just like to ask the CEO to respond, particularly on the matter of the agenda for the trip.
Kia ora, Chair. I think that the points that Councillor Jones has raised are valid. There is a lack of detail around what the deliverables for the trip will be. Yes, you can include reporting back on the chair, but I think the points raised are valid for council consideration as to whether you should approve the expenditure or not. So I note the trip is on the 5th and 12th of November. As in, we don't have another council meeting between now and then to bring back any of that information. But yeah, I think the points raised by councillor Jones are
Yep.
valid.
Thank you. So just bear in mind, so I intend for us to make a decision either way now.
Yep.
Today.
So-
So Rick,
Yeah, Chair,
and then Marty.
So under this section 2.7, is there any requirement for a person accepting this money to do a written or verbal report? Is there any is there any legislative role that they have to play? Because if not, then I will not support them doing a written report. I'm happy with an oral report and an update.
As the elected members' expenses and allowance policy doesn't specifically require a report back,
Right.
although I understand.
So I'm happy with an oral report.
In acknowledging that councillor Jones's concerns are reasonable, I think if they just turned into recommendations rather than questions, it would take away the loading of the conversation. And they're fair recommendations. I'd go with them.
Want to have your hand up? No. Okay, councillor Jones, do you have any further recommendations you'd like to add?
Look, they're not recommendations. These are questions about accountability and transparency. They're about alignment with our current infrastructure projects. They're about ratepayer expectations. They're about selection and justification. And I just think that this is not a good idea, particularly because there are no clear measurable outcomes. And in my perspective, this looks like a trip to a tropical destination with no clear connection.
Look, I'm going to move a procedural motion. I want to close your motion.
Yeah, thank you, councillor Jones. Unless you've got a new item to raise.
It's just vote.
Amy, I intend to put it.
Yeah.
Well, go on then, do it.
Go on then. So I guess, yeah, I just want to acknowledge that I think this is a really valid conversation, and I think, I want to acknowledge our CE, who's probably in a slightly awkward position of having to speak for the paper. I think where I'm at is, while there's a lot of questions we can ask about the expenditure and whether it's of value for Northland regional ratepayers, it's actually not a large amount, this contribution, in terms of the travel. And I'm just aware that in our role as elected members, we have expenses and we do domestic travel and we do things like attend conferences, and it's not always that tangible what the outcomes are. But we support each other to do that, in the spirit of good faith, knowing that we're all committed to our roles as elected members, and that when we step out there, we are really doing the best for the region. I'm trusting that in partnership with Northland Inc., there's an alignment there that will be beyond an individual councillor's perspective, that will bring us the regional perspective and that connection back to our economic inter-council agency. So yeah, I get that it's a bit of a stretch, but I think there's value there, and I do want to act in good faith, knowing the skills and networks that our chair has. And this is an opportunity for the NRC to sort of utilise those skills and networks and see if we can realise a greater opportunity for economic development. So
Thank you, councillor. Look, I think this has had a really fair hearing. Is everyone agreed that the three recommendations should be put together?
Yes.
Okay, I'll put them all together. All those in favour, say aye.
Aye.
Show of hands.
Yep.
Okay, contrary? 2. Okay, the motion is carried. Thank you.
Can I have that recorded? Thank you.
Yep. Also, Tui has raised 2 questions which I think can be dealt with through the planning process. One about social media reporting, and also about is the planning for the trip into account tourism. So I think that can be answered by staff. Thank you very much, Tui. And thank you, Colin. Can we bring the chair back in? I also like to know, what time is lunch?
12:30.
12:30, thank you.
I had enough time out there helping set the table.
I wonder what you're doing.
What a hero you are.
I know.
Councillor. Prepare stock at item 7.8. Thank you, Mr. Chair. All three recommendations were passed and carried. Thank you. You're back in.
I'm happy to move for 7.8, council submissions lodged under delegation.
Yep.
Two recommendations.
Okay. I'll do it. Okay, so we've got Rick. I'll second it. Chair.
I'm happy. We've discussed these. We've discussed the submissions before they came. We've discussed it afterwards. I'm very happy with them. Thanks.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Right.
Okay, all in favour?
Aye.
Against? Passed. Okay, Regional Pest Management Marine Pathway Plan, 7.9, page 80. We've got 7 recommendations. We've got Leon in the room here. And yes, April. Sorry, April, I was looking down, but great to see you here. So we've got 7 recommendations. Do I have a move? Would you like to take them all at once? Or should we...
Yes, I'd like to move the whole lot at once, the whole 7 at once. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I'll second, yeah.
Okay, Jack, you got any discussion to start with?
Yeah, I fully support this. Look, we don't have to actually do this for another 2 years maximum, but these processes always take time. So I think the team has done, the planning and biosecurity team's done a good job of forward planning, because you never know when you might get appeals. The Environment Court or whatever court is the government the day decides is going to ultimately control that destiny. So I think this is very sound planning. There are options rather than not produce a discussion document, just go to a draft. But I think several reasons why a discussion document is a very wise decision. One of them is this only comes up every 10 years. So you've got to be ahead of the game. You cannot retrospectively try and manage stuff that's already escaped or about to. So we've got Gold Plan, we've got planning for avian flu, we've got what else have we got? A whole bunch of issues, and the calibra's not a piece at the moment. So there's a whole range of issues that staff need to get their heads around, and we need to get our heads around in terms of long-term planning. So I think this is prudent. Secondly, we've had 3, was it 4 meetings of the Te Ruarangi, 3 of the Te Ruarangi members of the Working Party online to discuss implications for tangata whenua and tangata moana. And they've been extremely fruitful. We're getting good advice. And so in terms of the style of the document, the design, the Te Reo version, the explanations of the different categories to be nuanced in Te Reo, and also site-based approaches. April, Leon might want to add to that, to those aspects, and also plant list, the pest list, the focus on pets. And so I think the staff are doing a really good job of predicting what's coming down the line over the next 10 years. Yeah. Okay, thank you. That's all I have to say at the moment.
Yep. Okay. Good. Rick?
Well, back up what Jack said, but also what I like is the, it's best to get in first, just 10 years, but also I like the, and there's no numbers here, but what biosecurity activity sits outside the pest plan. I think it's great to mention all those things, and like we know for a fact that the community's taken on a huge amount, and now we're getting those individual landowners on board as well. So I think it's awesome. So,
right, Leon and April, you got anything to say? I know this is new to you. I know you come from the, the land management team, and having a good bit of new eyes and ears and working this out. So you got anything you want to add to the story?
Probably just to direct on our agenda item as well, outside of the discussion document, we're also keen to get your support in the way that we're going about developing the plan. I think of the freshwater plan change as a good analog, where we came to full council with several workshops over months. What we're proposing here is slightly more lean, efficient, where we sit down with the Biodiversity Working Party and select members from Te Ruarangi as well, and we have a bit more of a fluid conversation with them, developing the initial stages of the plan, allow us to go out to the public, get a whole lot of information from that consultation. And when we need to make the really big decisions later on, that's when we can come to the full council with really reasoned conclusions and well-prepared documentation where we have a lot of information that's already been vetted through the courts. So not just the discussion document, but we're also keen on your endorsement, the way that we develop the plan itself.
We've got a good timeline there, easy to follow, so.
April.
It was April, well done, April. Okay.
Done by April.
Yeah. Any other discussion around this? Don, you want to add anything? This is your leadership area.
Through you, Mr. Chair, only to acknowledge April and Leon's investment in this. It is new. They're working through some really tough legislation actually, and getting their heads around that. And the discussion document is the first product of all their work and the council's work, the working party and Te Rurangi's work to get it this far. So I think it's a real milestone. It's a good start, and yeah, we hope that it can be supported by council.
Okay, April's just got that.
We're quite aware as well that we haven't attached the full discussion document and you've got the majority of the text, but we have got some of the design back from Kathy's done the design for it. If you'd like to have just a quick wee look at it, it's quite important to us. I can chuck it up
Okay.
now.
Yep, Jack would like it.
Yeah, I think we should. I think councillors would like to look at it.
Yeah, it's quite beautiful. And she's doing it with yeah, just a few limited time. So sorry, this was just in case you had any questions for us. We tried to come prepared. But our campaign is very much focused on being educational. A lot of people don't even know that we have a pest management plan or how to use it. So you would have noticed in the tech that it's focused on that quite a lot. We want to be able to support the community and how to use it, and also how they can be involved and how this new version of it will come to light. So she's used a lot of our new pests and the graphic design, and all of our headings are also translated into Te Reo Māori, and she's done a really beautiful graphic of the distribution of pests and where our money gets allocated, things like that. So it's quite a beautiful looking document, but this is all she's done so far until we so, yeah, so you're aware.
Oh, great stuff. Thanks, April.
That's all right.
Any other conversation? So we're going to accept.
So I'm just going to make a comment. I'm really pleased that it's happening in this term to contribute towards it. And I look with real interest at how we can look towards changing, to perhaps looking and seeing what best practices and see how we can bring that forward.
Feels like we've been attacked at the moment, don't we? Weeper and golden ham and spurge, you know, it's and asparagus, Texas. Like that. Oh yeah, we've got plenty of it. Climate change. So yeah, thank you. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Passed.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, page 94. The chair's report. Do I have a mover and a seconder? John? Rick?
Yeah.
Any other discussion?
A lot of meetings.
And Councillor Shorten.
Oh, Peter Lucas?
Kia ora. Yes, I would agree with John. There's a lot of meetings, and thank you, Chair. But I'd like to address the report because it raises a concern that is becoming increasingly important. And I think it's the lack of tangible outcomes from our engagements. And while this report lists several strategic meetings and events, I think there seems to be, for me anyway, little clarity on the concrete results or progress that these engagements have achieved, and whether it's, you know, Hikurangi Swamp or the airport project or biosecurity initiatives like the Predator Free 2050 project. I think it's fair to say that tracking outcomes and accountability is really important. And so I have a question, and my question is, how do these engagements align with our core priorities as a council, and what tangible value are they delivering for ratepayers?
Well, I suppose I don't have to break everything down, but I could send you a report. I do send most reports to everybody after meetings, Peter. So yeah, I don't think this is the forum to break everything down into specifics, but if you'd like to have a chat afterwards, I can definitely fill you in on the progress.
I'm only asking questions because this is the public meeting and this is a report that we are receiving. If it's not a place to ask questions about value for money, then I'd like to learn where we do have those questions. I'd also like to raise a question around alignment and reporting and communication, because I think moving forward, we need to consider how future reports include concrete updates on the outcomes, because meetings and attendance at engagements beyond the list of events are probably important as well. And that's because it's vital that these engagements go beyond just networking and result in actionable steps that demonstrate value to the community and are connected in some way with the expectations of our ratepayers, more than just participation. I think what our ratepayers want is an expression of leadership that's focused on solutions, follow through, and really clear accountability.
So, Chairman,
yeah,
September the 10th, the clerk meeting you had, just use that as an example of what you achieved there. I appreciate
okay, well, I did do a report to all council
I know.
after that meeting. So, and Peter Lucas, you did receive it because you thanked me for the report. So do I have to go over the report again, or did you not read it?
Mr. Chair, what I'm talking about is measurable outcomes and how these are connected to other reports that we're receiving, other recommendations that we are approving.
Not sure where you're trying to go with this, Mr. Lucas, but I do a report after every ministers' meeting. Quite often things do progress, but if you'd like more information, this is not the forum to bring it all up. I can catch up with you later on. Quite happy to do that.
If this is not the forum, I'm keen to learn where the forum is, because earlier in the meeting during the action schedule, there was a letter regarding, for example, the Whangatane spillway. That documentation of any particular problem that we are addressing as a council was actually we pressed pause on that, and there was a decision to have what I understand was an offline conversation. So when we're having offline conversations, it's important to learn how we're documenting the follow-up. What are the actions, and how do we ensure that we're keeping decision makers to account when we actually have jurisdiction over particular things in our region? And I think this is
you got a question
to occur.
And then Rick.
Yeah,
I do have a question, because I do not recall, and I'm assuming I'm allowed to ask this question because this is the council meeting and the report is on the agenda item, so I don't see why I would have to go and email it later. This is the moment. I just would like to know, September 5th, the meeting was around Hikurangi Swamp. Were you there representing council? I assume you were, because it's in your chair's report. What is the update on that? Because I haven't heard anything, and I hope you're not using discussions in council only time as having updated councillors, because we're clearly today coming up with differing ideas of whether or not you can deliberate. in council only time, whether you can ask questions here. But I had read the agenda and I wanted to ask, what is your role in the Hikurangi Swamp as chair, and what is your role as landowner?
Okay, well, as landowner, I'm actually chair of the Hikurangi Swamp Committee as well, but as representative of the NRC, we are looking at, as you'll see, these 4 rift items that have been put through by the Whangarei District Council. A discussion on the floodgates was discussed and how it was progressing, and just other numerous Hikurangi Swamp issues which we not directly aligned to, but it's good to have an NRC voice. We actually have an NRC controls the consent of the Hikurangi Swamp, and we always have an NRC representative at our meetings. So if you'd like some more information, I can send you a copy of the minutes.
So you are there representing the landowners and regional council?
Well, I have a voice as well to help things go along. What are you trying to get at, Tui? I'm not quite sure.
I'm trying to understand whether or not, like, you know, what exactly is the role of regional council there? What exactly is our role? Because I know the primary role is Whangarei District Council. And what exactly is your role? Because there's land being sold, and, you know, we all know this. You know, farmers wanting to get out of the swamp. We really want it to be restored. So these are genuine questions, but I'd like to know if you have any conflicts of interest, or if you need another councillor to come along because of the perception. That's all. It's not.
We are developing new wetlands in the Hikurangi Swamp, which we're working with Whangarei District Council and the local iwi. So if you'd like to come along, no problem.
I'm trying to work out, where does it anchor? Like, you know, it hasn't come through Natural Resources Working Party. It's not biosecurity. Oh, well, I guess it's biosecurity and biodiversity, but again, I'm just, you know, I'm trying to figure out what work program does this align to? What staff is working on it with you? What are the strategic outcomes that we have all agreed to as a council for you to take and promote at Hikurangi Swamp?
Oh, well, I'll send you a copy of the minutes, and if you can see anything from that, definitely let me know. Right.
Can it go down on the record that my question is unanswered?
Okay. No problem.
I'd like to see clarification.
Can we have all in favour?
I'm seeking clarification.
Oh, sorry, Rick.
Look, I can understand, you know, because traditionally this report is the chair's report's been fairly brief, like a page, and in the past we've read. I can't remember, I could be wrong, but I don't think we have had this sort of depth of discussion about any meetings that the chair has had. So I feel it's yes, it's appropriate to ask questions on it, but I guess the most important thing here is this is a public document. It's been out in the public arena for, I don't know, 7 days. We've had chance to ask questions about any of these. Any member of the public who reads it can ask their councillor questions, and then we can follow it up. So I would not like to see any more detail on this. I would not like to see any more reports on this report. I'm very happy to have the 5 or 6 days or whatever it is to ask the chair any questions, or as well, if any of the constituents ask questions, I'm happy to follow them up. So I'm very happy with this report like it is.
I have a clarification point in accordance.
I'm happy. It's a public meeting, and I'm happy for questions to be asked. But I think if we're expecting an answer, then it might be better process to ask the question for an individual to answer in the public process. Otherwise, it turns into a frustrating exercise rather than an exercise of clarification. I'm going to suggest that members ask the chair, for instance, to bring a bit of a report on the Hikurangi Swamp or anything else that can be answered in public. It would be more helpful.
Yeah, I'm happy to share any information prior to the meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
And my clarification, Mr. Chair, is really around, were there decisions made or actions taken that can be linked directly to these meetings because networking is really important, but so too are tangible outcomes for our ratepayers. And if the staff want to support you to respond to that at a later date, that's fine, but it is important that as a representative of my constituency, I note that there are at least 5, 6, meetings there that are with key decision makers, and it's important that we understand if any decisions were made or if there are in fact any actions that need to be documented in your report so that we can actually monitor the progress. Kia ora tātou.
Okay, take on board what you've said, Peter Lucas. I have sent you a copy of 5 or 6 of those meetings, so maybe check your spam box if you didn't receive it. Okay, all those in favour?
I have received those, and as a result of those, my questions have developed. Kia ora.
Right, the Chief Executive's report, item 8.2, page 95.
Yeah, I'll move.
Now, we've got Jono here. Are you ready for any reports you have to?
Happy to take it as read, Chair, and we've got our ELT team here, who I'm sure are ready to answer any questions that councillors may have.
I've got one.
Yeah.
Akikara slowly getting better. I suppose our field trip up there is still planned. I'm interested to know why it's so bad, but I see that you've got this SCUV unit in there and it's starting to make some difference. But gee, it looks awful, doesn't it? That's page. But we've still got that plan to go up north.
Yeah, we haven't brought it up yet because we've got to get our diaries done at the moment. We are still planning, yes, but we've got Marty away on certain dates, and Amy's away on Christchurch, so sort of want the maximum amount of people. But
yeah, I'm really interested in all these sort of things.
But John, we could always just go up.
True.
Okay, I just would like to recommend us that support the staff on finding that rudfish.
Yes.
It's really amazing. I've had them washed up on that Dringy Swamp, and I've had to ring Jack and say, what is this fish? And the history of that's quite amazing, Jack. An English guy released it.
Smith.
Yeah.
What was his name?
Oh, yeah.
Stuart Smith. The greatest eco criminal in New Zealand's history.
Oh,
Over 1,500 sites of releasing pest fish. How about that? I've got a question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Of Colin. We've got a really pleasing result with FDE compliance. It's quite a significant improvement. You got any reasons why you think it's better? Are we communicating better?
Yeah, I'm always a bit reluctant to conclude stuff until the end of the season, but
it's a big jump.
Certainly to date, there is a noticeable improvement over last season. There might be many reasons for that. We've had a pretty good winter in terms of rainfall. Well, so I say hasn't been too wet. Also got council's compliance manager here as well. So you may want to add any.
Through the chair. Yes, I think that weather always plays a large part in our FDE compliance, especially early in the season.
There has to be some explanation because it's a significant improvement. Human nature doesn't change overnight. Anyway, thank you.
Right, I've got a question for Colin. The solar farm, Colin, are there likely to be any more appeals, and is it closed yet?
Okay, again through the chair, there has been a further appeal from one of the submitters against the grant consent.
And is it closed? Is it closed yet, or?
It must be closed. It's 15 working days after the notice of appeal. But that doesn't stop parties making a late application to either join the proceedings or appeal, and that's up to the court to decide whether or not those late applications are.
Thank you.
Tui?
Kia ora. whilst the technical issues are being worked out, could I please also ask a question?
Yes.
And it's regarding the sea spurge management and the MOU. I mean, given the discovery of the sea spurge in the western part of Te Taitokero, and the significant effort that, of course, is going to be required to manage and eradicate it, specifically in the area that's in Mitimiti, I'd like to ask a few questions. I mean, the first question that I have is really about the implementation of the national MOU. And with the signing of the MOU between Biosecurity NZ, DOC and the Regional Council, how will we as a council leverage this collaborative framework to coordinate our efforts to actually secure resources or funding for this and other biosecurity challenges in the far north, knowing that this sea spurge in Mitimiti has the potential to move north and south to considerable onero or long beaches.
Yep.
Good, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Jones. I think the MOU is a really good advancement, and it provides a vehicle for us to be able to highlight these sorts of issues and highlight collectively as a regional sector to agencies like Biosecurity NZ around issues like sea spurge and about highlighting EPI's role in responding to sea spurge. And also, let's be clear, we have had issues at times at trying to get BNZ to come to the table for these issues. So the MOU provides an opportunity for us to highlight any issues at a higher level within those organisations and as a regional sector to be able to jointly advocate for those things. Sea spurge in particular, I understand, Don, and I'll leave it for you to provide a bit more of an update, is that we have had a reasonably positive response from Biosecurity New Zealand, and maybe I'll just pass over to you just to provide some more detail around what that response has been and how we're looking at advancing that.
Yes, we have initial inquiries. MPI have informally committed around about just over $20,000 towards the initial sites that were located on Te Oneroa. But upon finding the largest site at Mitimiti, it's a site that some approximately 5 hectares in size. They've also committed informally at this stage to helping fund a much larger proposal, which would see the removal of all those sites south of the from the Behoki and the south of Te Oneroa Tohi to include Mitimiti. Yeah. So it's positive at the moment, and we're just working with MPI staff to confirm the contract that might have, as well as with Hapu of Mitimiti and yeah.
Thank you.
Marae.
And that was really what my follow-up question, and so thank you for answering that, because I mean the initial $50,000 will only go so far, and given it will take several years to eradicate what could be a seed bank living in the sand, I think it's important that we take on board what you've suggested and make the most of this opportunity to collaborate.
Tui?
Oh, kia ora. Thank you. And big mihi to the staff and Jono for all the work. There's always substantial work that is done every month, and I will put some of my comments in the chat because I have a few, and I don't want to just, ask questions and debate, and, because we are really, as a council, I think we're doing great things. My focus, though, of my time to speak today, I'd like to highlight the work that Colin and the team are doing around wastewater treatment plants and enforcements. You know, I've been fortunate to have visibility on the Far North District Council's improvements, and you know, hoping that what they are seeking to achieve, they will. My more concerns now are with Kaipara District Council and Whangarei District Council, who, you know, still stands themselves up as exemplars around wastewater. And the Whangarei City and Hikurangi plants, I think that good, Colin, for pressing them over there, as well as the ones in the Kaipara. I hear consistently from whānau that are impacted by the odour of Whangarei City wastewater treatment plant. There's a papakainga that's only like half a kilometre away, and children have to go to school through that odour. So great work there, Colin. Moving on, I'd like to highlight the farm dairy effluent. I don't think, in my opinion, that 19% of non-compliance for consented farms and 21% of non-compliance for non-consented farms is good enough. That says to me that 1 in 5 farms are non-compliant, and that could be effluent discharge, all sorts by the looks of it when I see the different types of enforcement activities there. It's a major concern to me, and please do keep reporting on that, Colin. 1 in 5, we really need to encourage the farming industry to do better. You know, we've gone down this whole path around committing to Te Mano Te Wai, and I believe our region really needs to continue down that path. And finally, as I said, I'll put my other comments in the chat. The RM reforms, let's do that let's workshop that, and let's do that with our TMAC, and that'll be my consistent recommendations for any of these types of workshops and submissions that we need to produce in terms of the changes by the coalition government. Thank you.
Okay, no other comments? Joe?
Oh, yeah, Chair, a very brief one, page 119, Marae resilience. It discusses a meeting with the team at Mangalore Marae. Now, that marae has not flooded, but it is quite vulnerable to flooding, and in the future it may. Same with the church there. It's unfortunate that 8,000 to 10,000 cubic metres of quite buildable material has been trucked past that marae and dumped as part of the works in the Mangamuka Gorge. It's an absolute shame that wasn't, the opportunity wasn't taken there to actually build the defences of that marae and that church. And how that happens is a worry. We've just got to have people who can sense an opportunity when such earthworks are happening. They would have had a resource consent to ship such volumes. It's cost a lot of money for them to be dumped too, because I've had to road into a place to dump them another almost 2 k's down the road. Opportunity lost there. Just a shame. I don't know how we get around that so we don't lose opportunities like that in the future, but it's a big one we lost there.
Okay. Peter, you still got your hand up, or?
Yeah, I do. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've got a question regarding fraud, corruption and contract management, and you know, given the ongoing investigation. Is now a good time to ask that?
No.
And it's really about transparency.
Related to the report?
Page?
What page you on?
It's in the CEO's report.
Yeah,
In the CEO's report, if you've read the agenda, Mr. Chair, you'll see it.
No, you asked page.
I'm asking for a page.
Page 96. You got it, Peter Lucas, John O'Hare. You can ask the question. There may be some confidentiality around it that we may not be able to answer.
Absolutely. And notwithstanding the confidentiality, once the external peer review, for example, by BDO Whangarei is complete, what steps will be taken to publicly disclose the findings to ensure transparency with our ratepayers and, of course, other stakeholders?
I think it's too early to answer that question. We've got to see what the findings are and what we can and can't disclose. Go through our process. We can't bring them to the stage because they haven't got the report.
Yes, and so my question is about the steps. So do we have any steps already identified, or will we identify those steps to disclose unnecessary findings afterwards? Are we not giving that any thought now?
So I'll brief the chief executive, receive the report, and then the decision be made as to what we bring back to council.
Thank you, because I'm speaking to preventative measures when I ask that question, and it's really about how will the council use the outcome of the investigation to strengthen internal controls and prevent future breaches of in situations like this. And
we can Peter Lucas, we can potentially bring back, and it may well be that we do it through the Audit, Risk and Finance Committee, any preventative and remedial steps that we would need to put in place as a result of potential findings.
Yeah, and the reason that I ask these questions is really aimed at transparency, accountability, and improved governance in response to the investigation. Whilst we're aware that the investigation is taking place, I think it's important that we integrate any findings with internal audit processes and systems, and knowing how we in fact will improve our internal audit of contract management. Kia ora.
Okay. All right. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Okay, health and safety report for July to September 2024. Item 8.3, page 123.
I'm happy to move that.
Amazon. Okay, Rick.
Yeah, I'm happy to second it.
John. Any conversation around this report?
No questions from me.
Oh, I had a comment. I just wanted to, that last bullet point, which was around the nominations of the safety officers and the fact that, or the safety reps, sorry, the health and safety reps, and the fact that you had so many people putting their hands up across the organisation to the point where it needed to go to elections because there was such keenness. I think that you can be really proud of that, Jono, and all the team, because that's what we're really aiming for with health and safety, is that it's a really, it's like, yeah, it's within the culture of the organisation and within the individual culture of our staff. And that's what's going to keep people safe when they're out there dealing with the myriad of things that they do in their work. So I read that and had a big smile because I feel like we've come a long way with some of that stuff. So yeah, just wanting to highlight that as a really good outcome. And I'm sure that new committee are going to really add value. So yeah, congratulations.
If I can just add to that, Chair, and just to acknowledge Tamsin and Bruce, they have had quite a drive, and ELT, it has been a refreshed focus on health and safety. So yes, took all the comments that you make, Councillor McDonald, and just to thank those specific staff for the drive and passion to make sure it is a focus within the organisation.
Yeah. Bruce, has there been any, innovation that's really been quite, changing for the organisation that's come out?
QR code scanning to report incidents. The tracking system we've got to see where people are in the field, online GIS space, that's innovative, that's really good, that's done in-house. The Safety Champions new software we're rolling out, I think all those sort of things are good and innovative parts of the solution. So yeah, it's been good.
But also acknowledge councillors for giving us some more capacity to be more active in this space. Without that extra resources and capacity, we potentially we wouldn't be seeing the results that we are. So, sorry, John?
Oh, just looking at your page 123, you talked about health and safety training, and you got first aid, which is great, four-wheel drive school, but you got dog safety. What is dog safety about?
People, like compliance officers or monitoring officers going onto properties with his dogs and understanding how to act around dogs so they don't get hit by a dog.
Yeah, what's the answer to that?
Train them and let them understand how to interact with dogs.
Okay.
Try to reduce the risk.
Oh, I thought it was buying them a gun.
Got any questions, Joe?
Oh, yeah, what time are we having lunch?
Okay, well, we're nearly finished.
But you asked me. No, you got a lot more on the agenda after this.
Okay, Councillor Jones.
Peter?
Kia ora. Just want to acknowledge the work that's gone into this report. In terms of health and safety, does that ever feature on, and because it's a key thing that we need to monitor as elected representatives, is it ever discussed in councillor only time?
My knowledge.
No, so.
No?
Don't think so.
How do we get a record, Mr. Chair, of the agenda items that feature on the decision-making schedule for councillor only time?
I'm not sure where you're going with that, Councillor Jones. We're actually talking about health, people and culture quarterly report.
Yes, but it's an opportunity to look back at if and how we address these types of reports in that forum, that non-public forum.
Okay. I don't think it's brought up in this forum, but you can bring it up with an email somewhere else and we'll get back to you.
Address that to Mr. Chair?
We'll get back to you. This is not the forum to bring out councillor only time. We're not talking about councillor only time. We're talking about people and culture quarterly report.
I know, I'm talking about this in terms of our governance responsibilities and just trying to get a clearer understanding of how we record these types of conversations in councillor only time.
Okay, well, the misunderstanding that you have needs to be addressed and I'll address it with you another time. Okay, so all in favour?
Aye.
And against? Okay, passed. Okay, page one. We've done 128. 128, people, culture, quarterly report, item 8.4. So we've got Jessica Mason, Human Resources Manager. The recommendations of the quarterly report. Do I have a? I'll move. I'll second it. Okay, Jack.
Oh, I'm happy. That's a good report. We appear to be on the up and up every month. So well done, CEO and staff. Thank you. And nothing else to add.
Got staff in the room? No. Okay, it's good trend. So
yep. Turnover's
great.
Turnover.
Yep. Rick, anything else?
No, I'm happy. I think the turnover's dropping ever so slightly, but that's a better trend.
All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Okay, so we've got receipt of community. Now we're going to.
I'll move those.
Second.
Yep,
okay. Jerry, Rick. Anything to do with the minutes?
No, I hope, as far as civil defence goes, we had a good report from the Security Intelligence Service, so that was interesting. And it's all, the minutes are there, and I guess there are detailed minutes somewhere else about that. And also we've met with the Shadow Minister of Civil Defence. That was great.
Yep.
And we're meeting with another Shadow Minister in the next couple of weeks. So that's great. So it's civil. I mean, I think we've been very lucky when you look at those rain charts earlier on. We haven't had much, and compared to past years. So something's going to happen sometime, and I think people do tend to get a bit blasé about civil defence. So definitely up, and I want to thank the team for their ongoing work and the reports that have come out. They're very well received, Louisa. Those reports. Thank you.
Thanks, Louisa. Any other comments around those reports? Okay, all in favour?
Aye.
Against?
I'm sorry, just one question, Mr. Chair, regarding the Joint Regional Economic Development Committee minutes. I noted there was no discussion there about the Thailand trip. Are the Regional Economic Development Committee discussions in any way related to the reason and priorities for that trip? And are they involved in any way? I just note that there's no discussion there about it, and it seems, from what I understand earlier in the meeting, directly related to economic development. So I'm keen to learn how it's connected to the work schedule for the Joint Regional Economic Development Committee.
Okay, we'll get back to you on that.
I can
Right.
speak to that because I was there. You may recall, Jeff, you didn't go to that meeting. So I can respond. There's been no discussion around a Thailand media and social influencers trip at JRED. If there were, we probably would have suggested, had a discussion around whether John Busich is chair. And then, with the Northland Inc. Link, we probably also would have discussed Suzanne, the chair of Northland Inc. going, seeing that they hold the portfolios. But kia ora.
Okay. All right, all in favour?
Aye.
I think we've read past it anyway. Sorry about that.
No, it's fine.
Okay, working parties updates 9.2.
Not mine.
I'll move.
Sorry, and councillor Shortland.
She's moved.
Sorry, I'll second then. It's fine.
Okay. Okay, and Jack.
I've got nothing to add to the Biosecurity and Biodiversity Working Party that hasn't already been covered. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Any other conversation? Okay, all in favour?
Aye.
Against? All right, we're going to business public excluded.
I'll move.
Okay,
1 and 2.
okay, Joe and John. Okay.